Da 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 da. Oh, sorry, guys. Welcome in. I was enjoying the theme music a little too much there. For those of you who always watch the replays, you have no idea what I'm talking about because that theme music gets trimmed out about an hour or so after we go. Guys, welcome in. We got a big show today because nobody knows what the hell's going on. And by nobody, I mean Fed sloppers. They have no clue how to read legal documents. They don't know what they mean. Everybody's rushing to X to try to figure out, did Tyler Robinson's attorneys really admit that he did everything? No, guys, no. We'll cover that. We'll cover it all in just a little bit. I apologize for the matinee edition, but it's really convenient on a Wednesday. It allows the Baptists to get to church in the night. So, guys, church is on me tonight, guys. We're going to roll through the documents. We've got a lot to cover today. This is going to be a big show. We've got a lot to cover today. By way of schedule, tomorrow we'll probably go around 4 or 5 p.m. God's time, Central Daylight Time, because Candace has already announced she will not be doing a show tomorrow on account of preparing her studio for Smoke Boy to arrive on Friday, if he does, in fact, arrive. I've got commentary on that a little bit. I want to do a few minutes on that. Probably the last I'll say about it before Friday, but unless something else happens. But I do want to go through the filing somewhat in detail, not line by line, but somewhat in detail. I want to show you what the Fed sloppers are saying about it because they are making idiots out of themselves. Even some of them purported lawyers from Canada, the little diminutive Viva Fry. The little small fry, he's commenting on it like he's some sort of Utah legal expert, and he apparently is not. He is not at all. And then we're going to check in on our buddy Frank the Snake Turek. He is a lunatic. He has a pamphlet out on how to help Standaces spouses. We'll look at that a little bit. Also, J.D. Vance has a new book out. Where is it for sale? Where can you get it? Well, it might surprise you. It might really, really surprise you. I mean, like, a lot. So we'll cover that as well. And we got a few other things on the back end we might have time to get to. I'm not sure if we will or not. But let me sort of back up real quickly by way of sort of an opening. Let me. This is going to be a quasi-opening today. Let me sort of give you an idea of how the criminal justice system works in the United States. Because if you are a Fed slopper, you apparently have no idea. If you are foreign, I doubt you have much of an idea. And even many here in America are confused and baffled by it because we get used to watching NYPD Blue and CSI and, everything's done in an hour. You have it opens with a dead body, and then within the hour, they've reached a jury verdict. And that's just not the way it works in real life. In real life, these things take time. There's several steps along the way. There are a lot of boring hearings. I declined the offer to participate in a lot of blow-by-blow commentary, and those commentaries did very well during the preliminary hearing. They did very, very well, but I declined the offer to be on there with them because 8 hours of covering relatively, frankly, boring legal maneuvering around the courtroom and introduction of evidence is not exactly very exciting to me, particularly at the preliminary stage. I just figured I'd come on at the end of the day, and if anything decent happened, we'd summarize it at the end of the day. And that's how we handle the preliminary hearing. The preliminary hearing's not closed, believe it or not. There was 5 days, but it's not over. Part of the judge's schedule on this preliminary hearing is that he gave each side an opportunity to provide a written summation. And we got the state's written summation last week. Yesterday, we got the defense's written summation, and we'll cover it a little bit today. And then they'll even have an oral summation. They'll come into court on September 1st, I believe, and they'll give an oral summation, and then the judge will rule one way or the other sometime on or after September 1st. That's just part of this. This is not the trial. This is not to determine what evidence goes in front of the jury. This is not an evidentiary hearing. An evidentiary hearing will determine whether a particular piece of evidence goes in front of the jury. There might be a suppression hearing, whether a piece of evidence cannot go in front of a jury. Those things take place afterwards. Then you'll have motions in limine, and then sometimes those go to hearings, and that will be determine what can and can't be said, what can and can't be introduced, what can and can't be hinted at, or, some of them are pretty complex. And so we'll have those along the way. We'll have 702 hearings in all likelihood, and that's when The state will name an expert. The defense will name an expert on a given topic, and then we'll have a hearing on whether or not that person is in fact an expert and what are the sort of bounds of their expertise. What are they allowed to discuss? By the time we get to trial, most of these issues will be hashed out. What we had July 10th-ish or so, a couple of weeks ago, and what we're getting our filings on last week and yesterday is the preliminary hearing. This is just a gatekeeping step. It's a little anachronistic, if we're being honest. It almost always passes. But all the state has to do, and I'll pull up the case law in just a minute, kind of outlining the state's burden, but all the state has to do is meet a very minimal standard, and that standard is reasonable. Is this reasonable to send to a jury? Is there a reasonable belief that this crime may have been committed in the way the prosecutors say? Is the person standing trial, is there a reasonable belief that he could have done it, such that a jury would need to then weigh evidence? A jury would weigh evidence. That's where you're going to bring in things like alibis. That's where you're going to bring in things like you got the wrong guy. It wasn't me, officer. You got the wrong guy. That's where you'd bring in things like, hey, the gun has dust in the barrel. It can't be fired. What we have at the preliminary stage is the prosecution is basically the architect of the preliminary hearing. In a lot of states, the defense may not even be there. They may do this all behind a closed door in something called a grand jury, where it's just the prosecutor. There's not even a judge, believe it or not. The judge only gets involved in a grand jury if there's an issue. But it's just the prosecutor, and it's just the grand jurors, and they get together and they decide together as a group. And I've been in front of a grand jury before. I was called as a witness in front of 2 different grand juries. When you're called in front of a grand jury, it's a little different because there is no judge there. And the grand jurors start raising their hand in the middle of it. And they're like, yes, number 17, go ahead. And they start firing questions at you. It's a very interesting stage. Some grand juries are very active. Some are less active. In Utah, they've chosen to go the preliminary hearing route. It basically substitutes for the grand jury. In a preliminary hearing, there is a judge present, but the function is largely the same. Did the prosecution meet its very minimal burden, its reasonable belief that something might have happened the way we're telling you it happened? In other words, the prosecution's theory in the Tyler Robinson case is that Tyler Robinson climbed on top of the Losey Center roof on September 10th, pulled out a .30-06, fired a single round, and killed Charlie Kirk. Nothing else really matters. There were some other charges, tampering with witnesses and some aggravating factors. We'll talk about those today. But the meat and bones of the case is that limited set of facts. It's not an element of the crime whether or not he walked onto campus and went through the parking garage. So it doesn't really matter whether you argue that that was or was not Tyler Robinson. It's not an element of the crime to be in the stairwell. So it's not something that you're going to spend a lot of time arguing that he wasn't in the stairwell. It's not an element of the crime to send text messages. Now, it could further the illumination of one of the elements of the crime if there were things incriminating in those text messages, but sending a text message in and of itself is not an element of the crime. You can commit murder without sending text messages. You can commit murder without being in the stairwell. You can commit murder without being in the parking garage. And so as we look at this, it's important to frame it properly. It's important to frame it properly, and I'm going to do it by contrast and direct examination on this. I'm going to look at the filing itself, and then I'm going to contrast with what the Fed sloppers are saying about it, because I think they're intentionally misleading you. Not all of them. Some of them are going along to get along, or they think they're being smart, but they're actually stupid. They don't understand what they're saying. So let's dive into this thing. Let's jump feet first into this thing. But before we get there, I want to show you sort of the operating law in Utah relative to the standards we're dealing with here. There's information I've got to give you ahead of time. We're going to come back and look at this after the case as well. This is a case in Utah called Utah versus Corey Virgin. Utah versus Virgin. You will see this cited all over the place. I am not a Utah lawyer. I tell you right now, I'm not a Utah lawyer. I very well could misunderstand some aspects of Utah law. Don't take this as definitive. Tyler Robinson's team will not be watching this and preparing based on anything I say. But based on my research, this is a very good case for us to look at. I forgot every time I did it. Oh, don't email that email account. All right. I want to roll through some of this because paragraphs 21 to 25 here sort of really give us a good idea of what we're dealing with. When you send something to trial, when the judge gets something in the preliminary hearing stage and he decides, yes, I want to send this to trial, in Utah, they call it a bind over. We are binding it over to trial, meaning I, as the magistrate, I, as the judge sitting at the preliminary hearing, who's known as the magistrate, I am going to send this for jury consideration. We will now start the process. He will have to enter a plea at this point. Are you guilty or not guilty? You know, Tyler Robinson still has not entered a plea, whether he's guilty or not guilty. Then we can start the discovery phase. Then we can have discovery disputes. If the prosecution and the defense aren't getting along on discovery, they can file motions and they can bring it before me as the judge, and I will determine how we're going to proceed on that particular issue. So the bind over standard, the standard the judge is following is any kind of principal fact finding that has to be done, that's left to the jury. Principal fact finding is left to the jury, meaning I, as the judge, am not going to sit here and weigh evidence. But they do have some discretion. They do have some discretion, limited discretion. They may decline bind over if the prosecution fails to present sufficiently credible evidence on at least one element of the crime. We'll look at these elements. I have all the crimes. We'll look at the elements and we'll figure out whether they met that burden. The key word that elevates the role between that of just being a rubber stamp is whether the prosecution's case is reasonable. Reasonable. We keep saying probable cause, but the standard here is reasonable. Is the evidence reasonable to be considered? If the prosecution has not carried its burden, that means they have not met the reasonable belief standard. Now, in their efforts, in a magistrate's efforts, and a judge sitting as a magistrate over a preliminary hearing, if in their efforts to ferret out groundless prosecutions, they may also make limited credibility determinations, very limited credibility determinations. And I'll talk to you more about what that means. But here they're going to, at the bottom sentence of this paragraph 23, they tell you, we're going to tell you what it means. We're going to tell you what it means. We're going to describe the bounds of the judge's authority to assess credibility. Now, they may make credibility determinations in preliminary hearings on a limited basis. That the probable cause standard demands reasonable belief rather than belief strongly suggests that magistrates must assess the credibility, but again, it's a limited assessment. Essentially, they may only disregard or discredit evidence that is wholly lacking and incapable of creating a reasonable inference regarding a portion of the prosecutor's claim. Inappropriate. It's not proper. If Judge Graf was sitting there and he's weighing evidence, weighing credible evidence, he's sitting in an improper manner. So if the prosecution says these text messages are real, and the defense comes up and says he never sent those text messages, you can't prove he sent those text messages, here's evidence he didn't send it, the judge is prohibited from weighing that evidence. It's not proper. It's not proper. If the prosecution says that's Tyler Robinson in the stairwell, and the defense comes up and says, well, that's not Tyler Robinson in the stairwell. That guy has a pointier nose and he's got a wider chin. That's not proper. He's not here to weigh the evidence. That's the jury's responsibility to weigh the evidence, to determine if that's Tyler Robinson in the stairwell, if that's Tyler Robinson on the roof, if that 30-06 had been fired. His job, Judge Graf's job, is to determine whether there's any credibility whatsoever in the fact that Tyler Robinson was in the stairwell or on the roof or fired a 30-06. That's it. That's it. Once he finds it's credible, it's over. You move on to the next issue. Magistrates must leave all weighing of credible evidence to the trier of fact and must view evidence in a light most favorable to the prosecution. And this right here, this line must view evidence in light most favorable to the prosecution, I'm going to come back to that time and time again today. Because one of the things the Fed sloppers are doing over and over and over is they're saying that Tyler Robinson's lawyers have admitted to this or admitted to that. They admitted he sent the text messages, case over. They admitted he was on the roof, case over. They admitted he had a gun down his jeans, case over. Not true. Not true at all. What they're doing is allowing the standard to be the standard. The prosecution says that he had a gun in his pants, so we have to assume he had a gun in his pants. So for the purpose of our argument, we're going to say he had a gun in his pants. And then we are going to argue whether or not that is sufficient to send it to trial. That's not an admission he had a gun in his pants. It is viewing the evidence in light most favorable to the prosecution. That is the standard in Utah. It's a standard nearly everywhere. And here's the money line. This is your money paragraph here. In sum, we hold. Anytime a Supreme Court of a state says we hold, or the highest appellate court of a state says we hold, then that is the rule in the state. A trial court is not at liberty to disregard we hold. Once they say we hold, only the highest appellate court in the land or a federal court can tell them that they can't hold that, that a trial court must do something different. So when we see a Utah Supreme Court decision that says, in sum, we hold, that's it. You have to follow it. Judge Graf is bound by this. He would be in violation of his judicial role if he was to ignore this. The magistrate's ability, Judge Graf's ability to make credibility determinations is not limited only to disregarding testimony that cannot possibly be true. Rather, he may not prefer one piece of credible evidence over another piece of credible evidence. In other words, if it's credible, he has to view that credible evidence in light most favorable to the state, and he may not then prefer other credible evidence over that. So if the defense brings evidence that he determines also is credible, he's not allowed to consider it. He's not allowed to consider it and weigh it and determine which way he's going to go. In other words, when evidence becomes so contradictory, inconsistent, or unbelievable that it is unreasonable to base belief of an element of the prosecutor's claim on that evidence, magistrates need not give credence to that evidence. That is the only time he's allowed to disregard credible evidence. Only if it becomes so contradictory, so inconsistent, and so unbelievable, then he can disregard it. So now that we have a little basis for how to look at this filing, we can now jump into the filing. I want to ask a few questions ahead of time because these are the types of questions I'm seeing out there from people who don't know how to read legal filings. Is it lawful to bring in new evidence, to raise alternative theories, to raise alibis that haven't been introduced by the state? Well, lawful? Sure. Fruitful? No. No. It's not fruitful. If you do that, the judge is not going to be permitted by law to consider it. If he finds the evidence the state has presented credible, he then is not able to consider it. He is precluded by the Supreme Court of Utah from considering it at all. So what's the point of this filing? Is the point of this filing to explain why the evidence presented doesn't meet the burden? Yeah, that's the point. Let's look at everything they've introduced. Let's assume it's all true. And then we make an argument. Even if everything they're saying is true, this count must be stricken. This count must be stricken. This count must be stricken. And they do argue in some that all of it must be stricken. By arguing that every charge and every element of every count was not met, the burden was not met on all those, what the defense is saying is we don't believe Tyler Robinson did this. Therefore, any Fed slopper who comes along on X or on a podcast or anywhere else and tells anyone else that the defense has agreed that Tyler Robinson did anything relative to committing a crime is being dishonest. They're misreading it at the very least, but in all likelihood, they're being dishonest. So what can the court reasonably infer? Well, it can reasonably infer certain things from the evidence. For example, we had Tyler Robinson identified as the guy in the stairwell. I don't agree with that identification. I think the identification is weak, and I think a jury will look at it very suspectly. Nevertheless, he was identified by Lance Twiggs as the guy in the stairwell. it's reasonable to infer that he then might be the guy on the roof because the stairwell leads to the roof. Well, if you're going to make that reasonable inference, that's fine. But you can't make an inference based on an inference. For example, if we believe that's him on the roof, we then can't make an inference that he put a gun together. There's no reason to infer that. That would be an inference based on an inference. You have to infer that he's on the roof. Now you have to infer that he's doing something on the roof. An inference based on an inference. So you can't infer based on an inference, but you can infer based on credible evidence. And people are fundamentally misreading this. So let me pull up a copy of the filing. I will put it on the screen here for all to see momentarily. And I want to run through some of my notes. I made notes as I read this. One of the first things you should do. Oh, let me pull it up first. One of the first things you should do when you're ever confronted with a filing like this, don't start reading at the top. Don't just scroll down and start reading. Okay, we got a bunch of authorities. Yeah. Okay, where are we? Let's get to the intro. Here we go. Now let's start reading. No, that's not how you read these. That's not how you read these. Instead, you scroll all the way to the bottom. Scroll all the way to the bottom. This will give you the roadmap. Go to the bottom and look at the conclusion. Go to the bottom and look at the conclusion. We're scroll up conclusion. There we go. Now we have a roadmap for how to read this thing. You read the conclusion first. In relying largely on hearsay deemed reliable by rule, the state has failed to prove by probable cause. Has failed to prove probable cause by reliable evidence that satisfies each element of each of the charged evidence. Right there is them saying, that is the defense saying, we concede nothing. We concede nothing. We do not concede that Tyler Robinson shot Charlie Kirk. We don't concede that Tyler Robinson did anything illegal, sent text messages, confessed to anything. They told Lance Twiggs not to comply, knew there were 14-year-olds in the crowd. We concede nothing. Anyone who tells you otherwise doesn't know how to read a legal filing, or they're fundamentally a dishonest actor. I think there's a little bit of both in this, to be honest with you. I think there's a little bit of both in here. So they concede absolutely nothing. For this reason alone, the court must decline bind over. Not bind over on particular charges, bind over on everything. Now, then they're going to go with their strongest argument. The state has not provided the court with sufficient evidence as a matter of law to satisfy the sole aggravator in the information. Okay, so we know they're going to spend a long time talking about the aggravator charge. That's the charge that elevates this to the death penalty. Under controlling constitutional law and Utah Supreme Court interpretation, the court cannot find, based on the state's evidence that the circumstances presented, a great risk of death to another other than Charlie Kirk and himself, and that the shooter knew of this high probability of the death of another. In other words, they did not meet this burden. Even if you find that the state did meet the burden on presenting enough credible evidence that Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk, we do not believe they met this aggravator burden. Finally, this is your next strongest argument. The court should decline bind over on aggravators count 6 and 7, and we'll talk about what those counts are in just a minute. So understand that you're being lied to. If you're talking to anyone, if you're reading anything that says that the state conceded Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk, that person is either an idiot or a liar. There's no third option. They're either, idiot. They're uninformed, they're ignorant, or they're a liar. If you're hearing it from a lawyer, they're a liar because they know how to read these documents. If you're hearing it from some Fed slopper, they might just be a paid operative running with talking points from a group chat, the group of 92, the group of 40, or some other group chat. That would be a reasonable interpretation. Now, so let's go to the introduction. Now, one more thing I'll say about this real quickly. If you get 1,000 lawyers to all try this case, we're all going to try it differently. If you get 1,000 lawyers to write this brief, we're all going to write it differently. It's just a matter of opinion. I mean, you have the four Gospels, and they were all written differently, right? How many angels were present at the resurrection? Well, it depends on who you read. Who got to the tomb first? It depends on who you read. What was said? It depends on which gospel you read. There are differences in those stories. That's the foundational, fundamental story of Christianity, and it differs based on who wrote it. Don't take my word for it. Go look it up. You'll see what I'm talking about. That's not to say it's not true. Just like this thing. This case, just because I might have written this brief differently, just because some other lawyer might have written this brief differently, does not mean that they got it wrong. It just means that every single lawyer approaches every single case with his trillions of experiences that made up who he or she is in their life. And they chose to lead with a certain strategy. They chose to pursue a certain strategy. Maybe I would have chosen a different strategy. That doesn't make my strategy right and their strategy wrong. It just makes them different. Now, maybe one strategy would be better. I don't know. You had 4 different lawyers on this, 4 experienced lawyers working on this. And I think you can see in the filing the different things they write. They write differently. They absolutely write differently. So let me pull it back up. I want to roll through some of this, because a lot of people are reading from the top. They don't read the conclusion first, and they're concluding that the only thing the defense is arguing, I keep calling it the state, the only thing the defense is arguing is that the aggravator doesn't apply. Because right here we read the first paragraph. On September 16th, they charged Tyler Robinson. The state had over 10 months to investigate. And the state's presentation of its evidence as to this alleged circumstance and aggravation at the preliminary hearing wholly fails to carry its burden of proof. They think, they must only be talking about the aggravating factors. They must have forgotten everything else. Well, they didn't. They didn't. It's actually in this intro as well. They talk about all of it, or not intro, in the argument itself. Right there. The state has failed to prove probable cause by reliable evidence that satisfies each element of the charged evidence. The court must decline to bind over on all charges. They are not admitting Tyler Robinson did anything that day. Keep that in mind. You have to keep that in mind as you read this. So what are they talking about? What is the intro talking about? Well, they talk about the thing they raised time and time again. This is all based on hearsay that's not been assessed for reliability. In Utah, that's fine. Okay, well, if it's law in Utah, why do they keep bringing it up? Because a federal court may disagree. Or maybe the Utah Supreme Court will decide this is the time that they disagree, and they change the law in Utah. Just because the judge is required to follow Utah law, as enunciated by the Supreme Court, does not mean that the litigants themselves cannot argue in good faith for a change of that law. That happens all the time. That's how laws get changed in the first place. Somebody raises the issue at a trial court. The trial judge says, I'm not allowed to do anything about it. I'm compelled to follow the law here. And then the Supreme Court comes along and changes the law. That happened to me in a case famously. The state Supreme Court of Florida changed the law in order to in order to throw out a dismissal on a case I was working on. We got the case dismissed at the trial court level on a criminal case because the law did not speak on his crime. It goes up to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court says, well, we're going to change the law. We'll allow the law now to encompass your client. Okay, well, thanks. Appreciate that. That happens, though. That happens. And the only reason the Supreme Court changed the law is because the state argued that it should. But the trial judge said, I have no choice. I have to dismiss this case. Just like the trial judge here is going to say, I have no choice. I have to send this to trial. But on appeal, if Tyler Robinson's convicted, on appeal, it'll go up and the Supreme Court will have an opportunity to weigh in on this. If not, the federal courts will have an opportunity to weigh in on this. This is particularly true as it relates to the evidence cited by the state to establish identity. In other words, how do we know that's Tyler Robinson? How do we know that's Tyler Robinson? It largely came from Lance Twiggs. It largely came from Lance Twiggs. He was the guy who identified him. It largely came from Lance Twiggs' text messages. Those text messages were never authenticated. that they are necessarily hearsay. They're presented to the court for the truth of the matter asserted, that they are the text messages, and they were never authenticated. And so they're arguing here saying, hey, by the way, you should change the law here in Utah. This isn't right. He's talking about his texts, talking about the Discord messages, talking about the identification of Tyler Robinson from VU security footage. Again, that footage itself was never authenticated. It was just Officer Bagboy looking at it, Officer Hull looking at it, saying, yeah, it kind of looks like Tyler. I mean, he's wearing a maroon shirt, isn't he? Isn't everybody in a maroon shirt Tyler Robinson? Isn't that what we learned from the media? I think this is interesting, too. And I want to pull up this document in just a second. But the state would not permit Lance Twiggs to be called as a witness in person. A witness, the court would not allow Mr. Robinson to seek a subpoena from another state to testify at a preliminary hearing. The statement of Lance Twiggs came in, you'll recall, as a Zoom call. A very strange-looking Zoom call. And we looked at that Zoom call and said, man, it looks like he's saying words at times that his mouth isn't moving. It looks like sometimes his mouth is moving and no words are coming out. Has this been edited? How do we know this is what they say it is? Well, they never authenticated it. And they never brought him in to testify. Here's the judge ordering that he will not be called in to testify. The defense applied to compel him to come testify. The state said, no, we do not want Lance Twiggs, even though Lance Twiggs is the whole sum of the case. Even though we cannot possibly convict Tyler Robinson without Lance Twiggs. We find Lance Twiggs such a lousy witness that we don't want him anywhere near this case at this stage. We're afraid he'll blow it up for us. That's the only explanation I have. They hid Lance Twiggs from us. And Judge Graf went along with it. This was his order. It's a long order. It was thought out. And here's what he said. The preliminary hearing is limited to determining probable cause. It's not a discovery device. The state can rely on this hearsay. And the enforcement of the subpoena is not warranted on the present record. I don't know why he didn't put a period at the end of that sentence, but I'm not Judge Graf. Now am I? The defendant has failed to identify specific anticipated testimony that's reasonably likely to negate probable cause, which is ludicrous in my opinion. How do you know what he's going to say unless you ask him? As distinguished from anticipated impeachment that would merely create competing credibility inferences. Uh-oh, I've lost my document. I'll pull it back up. So the judge did not want Lance Twiggs in court, nor did the state want Lance Twiggs in court. That ought to tell you how confident they are in their case. That ought to tell you right there that the case is pretty lousy, if we're being honest. It has to be pretty lousy. Now let's go back to the filing. Now that we're through the initial part of the argument, let's go through the finding here. Now, one of the things you'll notice is that the defense spends an inordinate amount of time talking about the aggravating factor. They spend almost no time talking about anything else. But they spend a lot of time talking about the aggravation. In fact, it goes from page 2 right here all the way to page 2 all the way to, where does it go? Top of page 27. It goes from 2 to the top of page 27. This is all talking about the aggravation. Whether or not Tyler Robinson should be put to death as opposed to just life in prison or just penalized for the murder itself. Is this a death penalty case? This is all going towards the aggravation. We'll talk about some of this stuff here, but I just want to show you how much time they spent on the aggravation. We've got to go all the way to the top of page 27. You might ask yourself, why didn't they spend this much time talking about everything else? Well, I don't know. I honestly don't know. Am I saying they did a bad job? No. No, I'm not saying they did a bad job. I'm saying their strategy differed from a strategy I might have employed. Because they led with and really only discussed the aggravators. They wanted to know, did he knowingly create a great risk of death to a person other than Charlie Kirk? And they wanted to know if there was any kind of reliable hearsay about Charlie Kirk's political or religious positions. Those were where they spent the bulk of it. And if you think about it, it kind of makes sense. Even though I might have tried the case differently, even though I might have filed this differently, even though a lot of other lawyers probably would have written other words in different orders, they're trying to create a record of appeal so that they can get the death penalty taken off the table. You get the death penalty off the table, you get a little more wiggle room. A little more wiggle room. Maybe the defendant testifies when he otherwise would not have testified. Maybe we bring in different arguments, different witnesses. We got to figure out right now, are we facing a death penalty case or is this just a regular murder case? So you have Section 1, they're talking about the aggravator relative to the other people being around. Section 2, they're talking about telling Lance Twiggs to remain silent and ask for a lawyer. Does that rise to the level of aggravation on interfering with a witness? Section 3, is there a knowledge of a child under the age of 14 being present for the commission of a murder? And then the victim targeting enhancement. Do we know whether or not he killed him because of religion? Is there credible evidence to believe he killed him because of religion or political beliefs rather than just being a psychopath, being a crazy murderer? Those, believe it or not, that matters. We colloquially refer to those things as hate crimes, right? The Republicans aren't supposed to like hate crimes, but this whole case really rests on hate crimes. Really rests on hate crimes. So let's roll through some of these specifics in here. Let's go back up and roll through some of these specifics that they keep referring to on X and on other places to determine whether or not we agree that these are the types of things that are the defense admitting anything. Let's roll down to our first highlight here. Beginning at 12:15:20. We have surveillance that begins at 12:15:20. Then the videos jump to 12:22:12 when a figure is seen running west across the Losi Center roof. I raised this issue. They're raising it, sort of. What the hell happened in those 7 minutes that they don't want us to see? What was the alleged Tyler Robinson doing? What was the figure on the roof doing in those 7 minutes? This is a murder trial. This is a capital offense. You guys supposedly are super confident in your case. If you're super confident in your case and you're not trying to sandbag this and you're not trying to frame Tyler Robinson, then just show us the footage. It's 7 minutes. You had 5 full days for this preliminary hearing. What would another 7 minutes have done? And I'll say this. Let me say this. As to the missing evidence, that evidence better all be presented at trial. If this goes to trial, that evidence better all be there. It should all be released in full, in total. No evidence should be missing from this case. Every single piece of video footage from that day, from their surveillance cameras, better be provided to the defense, and it better be available to see the light of day should the defense want to see it. It's not the only camera, the computer science building camera. And there better not be a missing second in there that the prosecution fails to hand over. And if there is, they better show us, oh, the camera broke. Oh, yeah, the camera broke? Really? Like it did with Epstein, the camera broke? It just broke? Yeah, it was broken that day, guys. Sorry. Oh, but only for a little. I mean, was it broken for 7 minutes, or do you have that footage? If you have that footage, release the footage. Show the footage. What was he doing up there? Was he assembling a rifle? Was he talking on the phone? Was he ordering a pizza? Did he have lunch? Did he eat a bowl of spaghetti? We don't know. Did somebody else come up there and talk to him? Did he pick up a phone and call someone? Did he text anyone? Did he put in a listening device so we could hear what was going on at the tent? We have no idea what happened in those 7 minutes, and I think it's important. Further, Because we can't identify the guy running, you can't identify him. I mean, it's just a blob. They even called him the figure here. The figure, not the suspect, not the shooter, the figure. Because we cannot identify the figure seen running west across the Losi Center roof, that 7 minutes becomes really critical, because how do we know it's the same person? We're just supposed to take your word for it? We see a figure emerge at 12:15:20, and then it goes away, and then the video stops, and all of a sudden we see a figure running, and we're just supposed to assume it's the same figure? I'd like to see that he never left the camera. What if he walked up? What if the figure that we see walk up to the roof at 12:15:20 walks up to the roof and then leaves, and then walks back down the stairs, and then walks back up there? How do you know it's the same figure? Could be two figures. The point is, we don't know. We don't know. Now, could the judge look at that and say, well, that's a lack of credibility? Yes, actually. He could. The judge could look at it and say, I'm not going to consider that footage because you didn't show me all of it. All of it wasn't made available to me. How am I supposed to know it's the same? You're just telling me it is. Does that rise to the level of a lack of credibility? I honestly don't know in Utah whether that would hold or not. Because the state said it's the same guy, maybe he's required to go with that. I'm not exactly sure. I don't particularly like that. Now let's go to, is this Tyler Robinson? Because I keep reading everywhere on X that they've confessed this is Tyler Robinson, seen all over these cameras. State's Exhibit 12:1 and 4 contain video of an individual the state's witnesses identified as Mr. Robinson. So right there, they're not conceding it's Tyler Robinson on campus. They're not conceding that's Tyler Robinson on campus. Instead, what they're saying is the state has identified him as Tyler Robinson. And we understand, Judge, for the purpose of this hearing, you're probably compelled to go with the state's position that is, in fact, Tyler Robinson. But we don't concede it, Your Honor. He was identified based on unauthenticated footage and hearsay. Then we got down here, a vehicle is seen matching Mr. Robinson's on campus. Judge, we don't even concede that's his car on campus. We concede that it's a car, and we concede that it looks a lot like Tyler Robinson's, but we're not conceding it's even Tyler Robinson's car on campus. And again, an individual state witness identified as Mr. Robinson returning to his vehicle. So all these appearances you see on campus, they're not conceding that's Tyler Robinson. I've seen over and over, and I'll show you examples of it in a minute from X, where people are like, they said it was Robinson. They admit it's him. No, they don't. But once you make the claim that all these identifications are based on a state witness identifying him, or a vehicle matching, or another state witness identifying him, you don't have to keep saying it every single time. Now you can refer to him as Mr. Robinson for the rest of the pleading. Why? Because you have to evaluate. Go back to the law I showed you. You have to evaluate this evidence in the light most favorable to the state. They're claiming it's Mr. Robinson. Therefore, we can talk as if it is for the purposes of this pleading. That is not us conceding it's him. This paragraph right here, in the middle of page 14, is them saying we're not conceding it's him. Here's another one. The individual identified as Mr. Robinson is seen returning to campus in different clothing and walking with a limp. Class, are they saying that's Mr. Robinson? No. So if they refer to him later as Robinson, are they changing their mind? In the middle of the filing, they decided all of a sudden, you know what, we are going to concede it's Robinson. No, that's not how you read these. They even have a footnote here. The state did not show footage of the individual identified as Mr. Robinson's movements in and around campus during their hearing, only the footage from the parking structures. He's identified as Mr. Robinson. But we know, Judge, you're compelled by the Utah Supreme Court to assume now, because they've identified him as Mr. Robinson, that it is in fact Mr. Robinson. This would be a very long pleading if every time they talked about this figure moving around campus, This figure moving on the roof. This figure walking with a limp. This figure supposedly having a gun down his pants. This figure supposedly walking through parking structures. This figure supposedly getting in the prone position. This would be a very long pleading, far beyond the 35-page limit that the judge kept them to. If every single time they referenced that figure, they had to write out this long narrative about how they contest that it's him. Judge, we're going to talk about a figure. Again, the figure we're talking about, the state has identified it as Tyler Robinson. We contest that. It's unauthenticated. It's hearsay. You can't do that and meet the 35-page burden and introduce all your arguments. And again, I say, anyone who claims to be a lawyer who is telling you that they are confessing that this was, in fact, Tyler Robinson is lying to your face. Anyone who's not a lawyer, so if Andrew Colvett or Jack Posobiec or Blake Neff or any of these hangers-on, any of those people tell you that this is, in fact, Tyler Robinson and his defense team is admitting it's Tyler Robinson, any of those people, well, they might just be stupid. It's possible. It's frankly probable. Frankly, it's probably very likely. They're just not very bright. They saw something and they're like, yeah, that sounds right. Let's get them. But lawyers should know better. No lawyer should be telling you they've admitted anything. They've specifically, time and time again, according to Agent Hull, the individual he identifies as Mr. Robinson is seen walking in a parking structure. This is them saying time and time again, we cannot identify this guy as Robinson. We're not conceding that it's Robinson. We're just telling you that they're referring to him as Robinson. It's irritating. Wait till I pull up these X posts after I've gone through this. You won't believe these people saying the things they're saying. All right, let's scroll down and look at these text messages. We got new text messages. In these new text messages, like we had these already. If police ask you any questions, ask for a lawyer, stay silent. My lawyer should be Doug Terry. I'll see if he can reach out to you and make sure the police follow the right procedures, proper warrants and stuff. But be polite and respectful, of course. Now, some of that's actually new. This last part is actually new. This is Tyler Robinson taking on the role of a lawyer, advising Lance Twiggs of his rights. But Baron, is this the defense admitting these were Tyler Robinson's text messages? No, that's not what they're admitting. I can't be any more clear about this, guys. None of this is an admission that any of this was Tyler Robinson or any of this is accurate. They've already said these were unauthenticated. They've already said that they shouldn't be admitted. But they have to argue that even if Your Honor finds that these are in fact credible and you are going to consider them, and even if we take all of this evidence as accurate, they still don't meet their burden. That's it. So when they say Mr. Robinson's advice to Mr. Twiggs was as follows, they're not conceding that Mr. Robinson wrote those text messages to Mr. Twiggs. What they're saying is, even if he did, all he's telling him to do is to make sure the police follow the right procedures. Well, that's not interfering with, this is the defense argument, that's not interfering with a witness. Make sure they have proper warrants and stuff. Okay, well, that's not necessarily interference. The police should have the proper warrants and stuff. Be polite and respectful, of course. Well, that's not interference. That's good advice for everybody. Be polite and respectful, of course. He says to Mr. Twiggs, again, they keep saying he. They keep referring to Tyler Robinson. Are you sure they're not admitting that's Tyler Robinson? Yes, I'm confident. I'm absolutely confident they're not admitting that. None of this is going to be in front of a jury. None of these pleadings will make it in front of a jury. They will have the opportunity to go after the authentication. They'll have the opportunity to explain, should they decide to strategically, that he didn't author any of these, that these aren't his text messages. But for the sake of this pleading, because they're in evidence, we have to operate as if they are Tyler Robinson, and then we have to articulate why we don't believe they meet the standard, even if they're true. He says to Mr. Twiggs, I'm going to turn myself in willingly. One of my neighbors here is a deputy for the sheriff. We hope to keep things sort of quiet here. I only hope they let you visit. And then we have an ellipses, meaning Lance Twiggs said something. I'm going to miss you too. Please be good for me. Is he good girling, Lance Twiggs? You going to be a good puppy? He's not good girling. He's good furrying. You going to be a good furry? Be good for me. Be a good boy. Luna. Sorry, I didn't get back to the serious stuff here. No, try not to get too off base again. Please be good for me. If you need anything at all, both of my parents are willing to help you. Please go to them. Leave the room alone. You cannot be any more don't interfere with evidence than that. Leave the room alone. The feds will search it top to bottom for certain, then work with my family to sort it out, what goes where and such. In other words, don't go into my room and hide evidence. Don't go into my room and hide evidence. Don't go into my room and try to start changing things around. Don't remove anything. Just leave it alone. The feds will come in, they'll get anything they need, and then after it's done, it'll be torn apart, and you can work with my parents on how to put things back together. In response to Mr. Twiggs' question, is there any way you don't go to prison? Mr. Robinson responded, I highly doubt it. I will update you as much as I can. If you need a place to stay, I'm sure my family would have you in my old room. It's a little weird to me because why would Lance Twiggs need a place to stay? He's staying in his own house. Tyler was actually Lance's roommate, not the other way around. It's not like they're losing the place because Tyler got arrested. Lance is still very much not arrested. You're all I worry about, love. Don't talk to any media, please. Don't take any interviews or make comments. I will always love you too. I will write to you as often as possible. If any police ask you questions, ask for a lawyer, and stay silent. In other words, you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney. If you can't afford an attorney, one will be appointed to you. That's all he's doing is reading him his Miranda rights. Make sure the police follow the right procedure, proper warrants and stuff. Be polite and respectful, of course. We've already read that one. These statements by Mr. Robinson. Oh, they're admitting, Barron, that they're statements by Tyler Robinson. Again, no, they are not. Barron, you're being repetitive. I know, because people are stupid. People are stupid. It's a shame that they're stupid, but they're stupid. And I have to correct them time and time again. What they're saying here is, even if that's true, it's just altruistic advice. All he's doing is telling him, if he did indeed author those, which we can test, he's just telling him he has Fifth Amendment rights to ask for a lawyer and to stay silent. This is not an attempt to impede a proceeding. Therefore, count 6 must be stricken. Now, is that going to fly? I doubt it. I think he'll let a jury decide that. But that's where they went with that argument. So let's go look at what people are saying about this. Now that we've gotten let me go back to this real quick. Let me go back to what a judge may consider. Now that we've gone through this, I'll do it much quicker this time. But I think it's important now that we've gone through this to look at the standard. Let's just roll down here to the last 2 paragraphs that we covered before. So what may the judge consider? He may make credibility determinations on a limited basis. The probable cause standard demands reasonable belief rather than mere belief. So he must make some sort of reasonable determination relative to credibility. But he may only disregard or discredit evidence that is wholly lacking and incapable of creating a reasonable inference regarding a portion of the prosecutor's claim. So go back and look at those text messages. Go back and look at those identifications. Go back and look at the evidence that was discussed in their pleading. The judge is going to look at that, and they have testimony from Lance Twiggs and Bagboy, and they have testimony from Hull that they think it's Tyler Robinson. They have testimony from Lance Twiggs that he thinks the text messages came from Tyler Robinson. And so he's going to be limited to that. He's going to have to assume for the sake of this hearing that that's what happened. And if that's what happened, then he's going to send, if he believes based on that it reaches the bar of reasonable belief, then he's going to have to send it to a jury. He has no choice. He's bound. It's inappropriate for him to weigh credible but conflicting evidence. But Baron, why didn't they raise any of your conspiracy theories? Why didn't they go into Candace's shows and show clips? Well, that's why. They're not, the judge is not permitted to consider any of that. So why would they do it? They didn't raise the exploding microphone. Correct. Yeah, they didn't. They didn't raise the necklace yeah, you're right. They didn't raise a gun from a different location. Indeed, they did not. They didn't say it wasn't Tyler Robinson. You're right, they didn't. Yeah, because it doesn't matter. The judge wouldn't be allowed to consider it. That would be considered credible and conflicting evidence. And he's not allowed to weigh that. He would have to go with the state's version. So if he has to go with the state's version anyway, and the state puts up a version, then we just have to argue that version they put up didn't meet the burden. That's the nature of the preliminary hearing. That's all that's being discussed here. That's all that's being determined. So are Tyler's lawyers sandbagging him? Are they part of the scheme to convict Tyler? Well, we don't know. I don't think so. I think they've done an okay job to date. I genuinely do. Might other lawyers have tried this differently to date? Sure. Might they have filed other pleadings? Mm-hmm. Probably. Would they have raised different arguments? Perhaps. But is the lack of doing that evidence, strong evidence, or even an inference that they're actually working with the government to convict Tyler Robinson? I don't think so. I don't think you can jump to that conclusion. I think that would be improper. It would be as improper as the people who are all over X saying that Tyler Robinson's attorneys admitted this and admitted that, and I'll go through some of those in a minute again. But as the standard says here, you have to view the facts in light most favorable to the prosecution. That's that line right here, this top blue blob, the bottom line right there. Must view the evidence in a light most favorable to the prosecution. His ability to make credibility determination is not limited to only disregarding testimony that can't possibly be true. You can only, though, consider alternatives or disregard evidence when it becomes so contradictory, so inconsistent, so unbelievable that it is unreasonable to base beliefs on an element of the prosecutor's claim of that evidence. And that's what they're arguing. Considering this evidence in the light most favorable to the prosecution, we don't believe it meets the burden. We don't believe the prosecution has met their burden to send this to trial. I don't believe Judge Graf will agree with them. I think the judge will send this to trial. That is not evidence that Judge Graf thinks Tyler Robinson did it. It's not evidence that Tyler Robinson's lawyers are admitting he did anything. It's not evidence that Tyler Robinson's lawyers are in on it and somehow working against Tyler Robinson. All of those things may be true. We can't know from these pleadings, and I don't believe they're true. I genuinely, as I sit here right now, I do not believe Tyler Robinson's lawyers are working against him. I'm subject to change on that. I could be convinced otherwise. But as I sit here today, I'm not convinced. I think they did a fair job on that pleading. I think they did a fair job. So here are some of my issues. When people are complaining or claiming that the prosecution has conceded the authenticity of the texts, or conceded the identification of Tyler Robinson, or conceded that that Charlie Kirk was even shot, or that he was shot from the Losi Center roof, or that he was shot with a 30-06. When people are claiming that the defense conceded that Tyler Robinson was on campus at all, or that he intended to kill Charlie Kirk, I think it would have been nice for the defense to throw in sort of a an all-encompassing judge. We disagree with all this, by the way. You understand that, right? We don't think any of that's true. But we understand the legal standard requires this, and so we're going to argue it as if that's the case. It would have been nice to see a throwaway line like that. It's not required. Certainly not required. But it would have been nice to see. Maybe they'll throw that in at the oral summation on September 1st. Maybe they'll show up, and the first things out of their mouth will be, just want to clarify a few things, Judge, in light of the way these pleadings were covered. We're not conceding anything. We don't know how Charlie Kirk died. We don't know whether Tyler Robinson was even on campus. We're not conceding any of that. But for the sake of this argument, we're going to argue in the light most favorable to the state. So please accept everything we say in that light. Maybe they'll give us a line like that. I don't know. They don't have to. They don't have to. And the reason is because they're not trying it for you. They're not filing these pleadings for you. They're not filing these pleadings for me. They're not filing these pleadings for TPUSA. They're not filing these pleadings for anybody. They're filing these pleadings for Tyler Robinson and for Judge Graf and for the state of Utah. And they know the standard. They all know what has to be said. They all know what the burden is. They all know that all this evidence must be viewed in light most favorable to the defendant. So let's go through some of these absolutely ridiculous claims. Oh, first, I'll give you a quick update here. Because I know this, when we do a matinee show, this is always a concern. So I want to alleviate this concern. Right out of the gate. We have an update from the principal, ladies and gentlemen. We have an update from the principal. Okay, officially bumping my show today because I'm realizing it would be a total mistake for me to do my show on this recent defense filing when we are less than 2 days away from the great debate. I, of course, have a lot to say about it, as always, but forcing myself to stay mum on it until me and Andrew come face-to-face on Friday. Please appreciate how difficult it is for me to exercise this level of restraint as the usual suspects put on the typical 4K HD theater. So the principal has opted out of doing a show today. That way, anything she says on her show, Andrew can't go prepare for as he gets ready for his debate. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. But I know as we do our matinee shows, people sometimes wonder when she's going to set a time. Is it going to be while we're still on the air? Are we going to have to hurry and get out of here? Take heart, ladies and gentlemen. None of that is going to be the case. I want to go first to Viva, tiny Viva. Diminutive Viva. I want to go to Viva. I want to show you how. Now, he claims to be a lawyer. Granted, he's not a lawyer in the United States, so I'm going to give him a pass and just say he's ignorant and not a liar. I am making my way through the Tyler Robinson defense filing. This motion is from the defense. He bolded that, ladies and gentlemen, in case we didn't know. It is not from the prosecution. It cannot be written off as Fed Slop. Unless I'm misreading or missing something, it seems even the defense is not denying the authenticity of the text messages. Well, we covered that. We covered that. Others who need not be named have been vigorously denying and impugning the authenticity of those text messages. Well, I have been, you can name me. I've been impugning and denying. And I will say right now, they've not been authenticated as we sit here today. They've not been authenticated. Nevertheless, they have to be viewed in the light most favorable to the prosecution for the purposes of that pleading. Correct. The defense, in fact, appears to be admitting the authenticity of those text messages. That's nonsense. That's nonsense. Again, he's a lawyer, but he's a Canadian lawyer, and I don't know what kind of lawyers they are up there. I don't know if they're real or not. Like their police force wears ridiculous outfits. I don't know. Do their lawyers? It's Canada. Canada's fine. I like you people up there, but they drink a lot of syrup. They prefer blue beer, Labatt's Blue. They watch a lot of hockey. Maybe they don't watch a lot of American courtroom drama. Maybe they don't understand American courtroom procedure. So I'm not calling him a liar, even though I said lawyers would be liars if they took this tact. They're merely denying the legal consequences that flow from those text messages. Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. That is the role in this pleading. Even the defense is not denying the authenticity of the text message. I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and I took it. Yeah, because this is not the time to make it. They're just arguing it doesn't translate to any threat or intended harm to other individuals. That's fully correct. For the purposes of this pleading, that is the standard, Viva. Surely you understand standards. I hope you covered that in Canadian law school. And the other statements were altruistic, not made to interfere with the state investigation or proceeding. If anyone disagrees with my analysis or understanding, please feel free to let me know in the replies. I'm not going to let you know in the replies. I'm not going to let you know in the replies. They did say alleged, but apparently Viva read past that. So that's the Vivster. That's one person. What about Hebrew Colvette? What is Hebrew Colvette's take on this? He has an interesting take. He is also not a lawyer. He is probably the worst PR person in the history of mankind. If you've watched TPUSA Circle the Drain here in the last 11 months, you'll understand. New. Oh, he's got the word new in there, guys. That means pay attention to me. I'm Andrew Colvette. In response to the state's motion for probable cause, Tyler Robinson's defense argues this shouldn't be a death penalty case because Tyler Robinson didn't intend to kill anyone other than Charlie. The apparent defense strategy here isn't to prove that Tyler Robinson didn't kill Charlie Kirk, but that he didn't intend to kill anyone else, and that therefore this should not be a death penalty case. I'm not sure exactly who he's quoting here. Robinson's lawyers argued the state has failed to establish probable cause. The shooter knowingly created a great risk of death to another other than Charlie Kirk and himself. Unreal. Well, yeah, because that's what's happening here. That's the standard. And then he says that about sums it up in response to, this is looking like the defense attorneys are pretty much admitting Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk, but don't want him to receive the death penalty. Well, that's how you took it, Michelle Chenoweth, but are you a criminal defense attorney? Do you understand the standards? Are you licensed in Utah? That about sums it up. By the way, on page 22, the defense admits it's Robinson in the stairwell. Again, no, they don't. No, they don't. But he quotes that evidence shows Mr. Robinson walking up down the stairs. This is what I'm talking about. This is why I felt like it was so important to do the show today. Because I'm seeing nonsense like this, and it cannot stand uncontested. What about Cake Sneff? What about Big Cake Sneff? He has an opinion as well that is uninformed and ignorant. But I would expect nothing less from one of the worst human beings I've ever encountered. Candace is having her latest blow-up because the defense's new 41-page filing in the Tyler Robinson case uses exactly none of the wild claims she spent the last 11 months pushing. Cake? This is not the time or place. Even if they raised all of it and the judge believed all of it, he would be not permitted to consider it. Blake is not a lawyer. I'm not even sure what Blake is. He was a producer, whatever that is. He's a rabid racist, but that's a different story for a different day. Rather than make the case that Robinson is not guilty, the filing focuses almost exclusively on trying to spare him the death penalty. Yeah, we covered that. Only one page contesting the actual murder evidence. Filing admits Charlie was killed by a rifle shot from the Lofty Center. Yeah, because that's the evidence, that's the claim the state made. That's the evidence they put forward, and you're required to believe it for the purpose of this pleading. Filing never argues that Robinson was not at UVU. Again, yeah, that's correct. That's absolutely correct, Cake. 100% correct. The filing admits Robinson was texting with Lance Twiggs. Yeah, it does. It does. It admits he was texting with Lance Twiggs. But Baron, you just said that they didn't admit any of that. They didn't. But now he's saying the filing admits it. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Law is not as easy as Cake Sneff thinks it is. Professional lawyers, unlike dishonest podcasters. Are you calling me a dishonest podcaster? Have ethical obligations that bar them from saying things they know are untrue. Well, professional lawyers also have ethical obligations that require them to follow the legal standard in a pleading. Can you imagine, for the sake of argument, let's just assume for the sake of argument that the lawyers went rogue and they started raising all these theories and they started saying he wasn't at UVU and they started saying all this stuff, and they have 35 total pages. The judge limited it to 35, and they spend all 35 pages arguing all these other things. Can you imagine the malpractice suit they would have facing them? Can you imagine the bar action they would have facing them? Can you imagine the post-trial relief that Tyler Robinson would be raising on the account of ineffective assistance of counsel, because they would have disregarded the law in Utah, disregarded the legal standard for a preliminary hearing, and raised issues a judge legally is not permitted to consider. That's essentially what Blake is arguing they should have done. That's what they're arguing he should have done. Big, beautiful Blake. That's what they're arguing he should. That's what Blake is arguing they should have done. Disregarded the legal standard and provide Tyler Robinson a defense that falls far below the legal standard. Brazilian butt lift, Blake. Daisy, this is no time to be funny. Then we have people we've never even heard of who are weighing in. Someone named Sarah Fields. I've never heard of this person, but I see a lot of people retweeting what she had to say, so I went and read what it was she said. Tell me if you're starting to see a pattern here from people who are ignorant of how law works. Breaking, Tyler Robinson's defense filing is out. The entire filing is absolutely ludicrous. Thank you for using one of my favorite adjectives. Providing the entire filing in this thread with my summary, Tyler Robinson's defense is essentially arguing that, yes, Charlie Kirk was deliberately targeted. Yes, one shot was fired directly at him. And yes, Robinson allegedly admitted I had the opportunity to take Charlie Kirk out, and I took it. But somehow the state is reaching too far with the additional charges and aggravating factors. This is a perfectly fine summary for someone who has no idea what the hell they're talking about. This is a perfectly fine summary. For someone who has never tried a case, who's never argued in front of a judge, who's never had to look at the different standards at different different stages, this is a perfectly fine understanding for a moron. The fact that this tweet has been retweeted how many times now? 683 times. Tells you there are at least 683 people who don't know what the hell they're talking about. So that is Sarah Fields, whoever the hell she is. Then we have Gunther Eagleman. What an unfortunately named individual. Gunther Eagleman. I don't know if he's a lawyer or not. I think he's let me look at his profile real quick. What is Gunther Eagleman? He is a political commentator, an opinion and satire. Maybe this is satire. Host of the Double Eagleman podcast. Maybe this is satire. I didn't even consider the fact that this could be satire. I was taking him at his word here, but let's look at it anyway. Gunther Eagleman. Defense is still trying to stop this from going to trial. Meanwhile, the evidence against him is overwhelming. Oh, we're back to overwhelming evidence. We're back to overwhelming evidence. Legal experts say this case is going to trial. I tend to agree with them. The death penalty is still very much on the table. I also tend to agree with them there. Defense is fighting hard to knock the capital charges down. I tend to agree with him there as well. They're going to lose. Well, yeah, I mean, you just told me the evidence is overwhelming, so I automatically discredit much of what you say. Oh, Smoke Boy, who's going to be arguing, presumably, who's going to be arguing this pleading with Candace Owens on Friday. Smoke Boy weighs in. What does Smoke Boy have to say? Well, let's find out. No, now that the defense filing is public, and it outlines that Tyler deliberately targeted Kirk, took the shot, and admitted that he did it after the fact, the Tyler Freedom Gang are going to double down on their theory that the defense is also in on it. Well, not exactly. I mean, maybe some, but I don't think they necessarily are. I don't think they're necessarily right when they say that. But again, notice that they just accept it all at face value. They don't do any analysis of what stage of litigation this is, what is required to be proved by the defense at any given time. They're just taking it at face value that this is exactly as they say it is. Now, that was Smoke Boy. What about Undercover Agent Posobiec? What does Undercover Agent Posobiec have to say about this? You know, he's always good for a nice theory. Maybe he's on our side. Well, not exactly. Tyler Robinson defense team. The video evidence shows Mr. Robinson walking up and down the stairs at UVU with a gait impaired by something long in his pant leg. Page 22 of today's filing. Well, what did you want them to say there in their 35 limited pages? You want them every time they reference him to contest it. They've already said they didn't meet any of the burden. What about Jane Doe you know? I've also never heard of this person, but she's getting retweeted quite a bit. No idea who this person is or whether she's credible, but I do know she's not very bright on this issue. So let's take a look at what Jane Doe you know has to say. Tyler and Lance texts are real. Oh, okay. So you don't know how this works either, Jane Doe you know. Tyler Robinson, in his defense, used the text between Tyler and Lance to argue throwing out witness tampering charge and the charge alleging a violent offense was committed in the presence of a child. They argue Robinson simply advising Lance to exercise his constitutional rights. And then they show the texts, and then she highlights here where those texts took place. So she doesn't have a clue how this works either. But that did not stop people from retweeting and liking this. That did not stop them. What about Tiny Gary? What about Itty Bitty Gary? What about the guy who has to jump up to get in a chair? What does Gary have to say? We know Gary's a dishonest actor when it comes to all this stuff. So let's look at his dishonest take here. Tyler Robinson's own defense confirms. All caps, guys. He's serious. He might be diminutive, but he's angry here. He's very serious. Tyler Robinson's own defense confirms it was Tyler in the videos, and don't even attempt to deny he had a rifle. The evidence is so overwhelming. Guys, I remain not whelmed. I am not whelmed. I don't think the evidence rises to whelming. Certainly not overwhelming. They are relegated to arguing that a screwdriver isn't proof he carried it disassembled. Tyler's cooked. And so are you fraud podsloppers who have deceived millions and conned them out of millions of dollars. He's got to be talking about Candace there. No, guys, I'm kidding. She's not a podslopper. She's not conning anybody. This is a fundamental example of a guy who thinks he's so much smarter than he is. This is a fundamental example of somebody who looks at evidence and says, you know, maybe I should be a lawyer, even though I'm a tiny little former Green Beret. Maybe I would be a good lawyer. What about Andrea Burkhart? She's everybody's favorite Fed slopper. She likes to take the state's side and everything. Tyler Robinson, what does she say? She's a lawyer. She's a lawyer. She's a good one. I think she's probably a very good lawyer. I've listened to her on a lot of things. Don't always agree with her, but there's always a lawyer on the other side, right? So it doesn't mean you're a good lawyer if you're on this side or this side. Every case has a lawyer on each side. They can both be good lawyers. What does she have to say about it? Will she agree with your humble host? For those of you interested in my take on the Tyler Robinson defense brief, they are arguing more or less what I predicted they would argue in light of what evidence was presented. I went through it on my Day 5 recap show here. From my perspective, there's nothing unpredictable about these arguments. The defense has done a very comprehensive legal review of the limitations of the death penalty aggravator. It is not likely to win with Judge Graf, who will defer to probable cause being a low standard and the jury being the decider of the facts. Oh, where have you heard that before? Your humble host just spent an hour and a half talking about this. But it's exactly the kind of argument about pure legal principle that may appeal to a reviewing judge down the road. Oh, they're setting it up for appeal. Where have you heard that, guys? Where have you heard that? Not from Cake Sneff, not from Andrew Colvette, not from Tiny Gary. Where have you heard all this before? Oh, from a lawyer. It's also not surprising the defense isn't disputing the state's evidence because they didn't raise any challenge to it at the hearing. There's no basis for them to argue the evidence is unreliable or fabricated because they didn't elicit any facts at the hearing to suggest it was. Yeah, because they're not allowed to at that stage. They don't have the evidence in their possession. They can't introduce something they don't have. This doesn't mean they're conceding authenticity or foundation or any other argument that goes to admissibility at trial. Oh, my goodness, Gare Bear. I feel so bad for you, Gary. If you had an ounce of shame in your body, it would be overwhelming you right now. It just means there were significant factual discrepancies about the authenticity of evidence and the inferences that can be drawn from it, such as the timing of the Discord messages or whether the guy on camera looked like someone totally different from Tyler. We would have expected to already hear about that during Tyler's hearing because they go to one of the elements of the crime, Tyler's identity as the perpetrator. Everything we're seeing remains consistent with what you'd expect from a defense team who realizes that fact defenses are a long shot and focuses their resources and their credibility on the battles they think they can win. If not today, then at least over the decades-long time horizon of a typical capital case. The only thing I would change on this is that they couldn't raise any of these issues at trial. They couldn't raise any of these issues at trial because they did not get the evidence. Hang on. They don't have the gun in their possession. They don't have the DNA reports in their possession. They don't have the camera, all the camera footage in their possession. They don't have the cell phone authentication stuff in their possession. They don't have the GPS stuff in their possession. What the hell do you expect them to introduce at trial? You expect them to say, nuh-uh? All right, you can come back in. You expect them to say, nuh-uh?
I was just going to say the prelim, not the trial. Sometimes people get that terminology confused.
Sorry. That's a good call. Preliminary hearing. It acts kind of like a little mini trial on these issues. But if you don't have any of the evidence in your possession and you don't have sufficient time to review the evidence you do have, they raised that argument time and time again. The judge rejected it and set the preliminary hearing and made them go forward without it and said, you don't need it at this stage. Okay, well, how am I going to introduce any of this stuff? How can I introduce evidence I don't have? Nobody thought to ask that question along the way? But I agree with Andrea. This is not the time or the place to raise these issues. Not the time or place to raise these issues. And so from an attorney, we get an honest response. From all the influencer hacks who are just weighing in, we get what we saw earlier. A bunch of influencer hacks just saying stuff and not understanding the burden. So as you go out into the wild and people are discussing this, you could say, hey, they didn't concede a thing. They've conceded nothing. All this stuff will be covered in evidentiary hearings, motions in limine, and raised at trial. All of it. I expect it all to be thoroughly examined at the different stages before and during trial. That's it. That's how you read a legal filing like this. You don't just make stuff up. Well, I guess if you're Jack Posobiec or Tiny Gary or Jane Doe or Smoke Boy or Gunther Eagleman or Sarah Fields or Cake Sneff or Hebrew Colvette or Little Viva, I guess you do just make stuff up. Even Viva should be ashamed. He's a lawyer. He's better than, or he should be better than that. But I'll give him a pass because he's Canadian. Maybe in Canada they do things differently. I'm not sure. They're still a British whatever. They still I don't know. They still have the queen on their money or the king or whatever. All right, let me switch gears here because now we have. This is honest to God. This is a thing. You guys know Frank Turek. We got this from Honest Ash on X. I'll show you this real quickly. I like to give everyone credit when we find something. Here's Honest Ash. She's a good follow. I don't agree with everything she says. I don't know why I have to say that all the time. I'm sure she's a lovely person, whatever. I get so in trouble when I quote somebody or say I found something from somebody. And then I get all these text messages. You know what she said. You know what she... Stop it. I've not read everything she's ever said. But I like this. I like this. Because what she found was Frank Turek is going into the new business. No longer is he just apologetics, ladies and gentlemen. He made his money as an apologetics guy. He has a whole... It's like Christian in Action or something. It's like CIA is the name of his group. I'm not kidding. You sign up and you go to CIA. That's a Frank Turek thing. I have no idea why he chose to name it that. But he has a new program out, not just on Christian apologetics. He now has 37 questions to consider. A guide, this is, honest to God, this is a thing. This is a thing he has on his website. A guide to discerning Candace Owens' conspiracy theories, evidence versus speculation, and clarity when relationships are strained. He's back on this thing that people are getting divorced over Candace. No emotion, no exaggeration, just clear thinking. He should have just, only one thing I would add. No emotion, no exaggeration, just clear thinking in protective lenses. That's the only thing I would add to this. I would add the protective lenses thing because, Frank, if you don't and people see you, they're not going to know what's going on. They're going to be very confused. So you might as well just hit them up front and let them know you wear protective lenses for some reason. You're constantly got on shooting glasses. Why we created this guide. Conspiracy theories surrounding Charlie Kirk's murder have strained marriages and friendships. These 37 questions from Frank Turek cut through speculation, gossip, and personality-driven claims. They apply consistent standards of evidence, motive, and biblical principles about false accusations. I want you to read some of these. There's a couple of these that are so shocking that I can't believe he put it on paper. For example, what motive did any of Charlie's friends or employees at TPUSA have to even want Charlie dead? Do you want us to go through these, Frank? Do you want us to identify these? Hold on. Why does God threaten to kill people who abuse widows and orphans? Frank, yes, you buried that as number 16 of 37, but that is terrifying that you're telling people God wants critics of Erica Kirk dead. That is so irresponsible. I see why you wear your shooting glasses at all times. That is so irresponsible. Does Deuteronomy 19 prescribe the death penalty for those who have falsely accused someone of murder? Oh, my goodness gracious. This is so insightful. These people not only want Tyler Robinson dead, I think they want other people dead. This is ridiculous. Why haven't they called Candace as an expert witness? Huh? You have to ask that question? Why is there so much evidence against Tyler Robinson? That's not a thing, Frank. That's an opinion. That's your opinion. If foreign government wanted Charlie dead, why didn't they just kill him privately with no witnesses, not in front of thousands with cameras rolling? What? Huh? Were Charlie's views more friendly to Israel or Muslim countries? What? This is craziness. This is absolutely crazy. But I will go back to 16 and 17 here real quickly, particularly 17. Frank, you're accusing Tyler Robinson of murder. You're saying the evidence against him is overwhelming. What if it turns out he's acquitted or he didn't do it? What if good evidence comes out he wasn't even there that day? Are you signing up for the Deuteronomy 19 punishment? How does this work? Should this be like vigilantes? Do we take you to court? I mean, what do we do here, Frank? Now, let me be very clear. I don't want anyone harmed at all, ever. I don't want the state putting people to death in the death penalty. I don't want vigilantes going after people. I don't want anyone contacting Frank or Erica or Andrew or Blake or anyone else. I think that's inappropriate. But I think what Frank's doing here is also very inappropriate. Because I think those are the types of things that could get people hurt. You're telling people God wants people dead. A lot of people who fervently want to follow God's desires and wishes carry out his will. And you're telling people that that's God's will. I think it's horribly irresponsible, Frank. I think you know it too. It's a whole thing. They even have a... actually, let me pull this down just a little bit because I don't want that video rolling below it. There we go. They have a whole thing on their Facebook page here. It's a short, so the easiest way to share it is this way. How do you lovingly respond when a friend or family member becomes consumed by conspiracy theories? Frank Turek recently joined News Nation's Katie Pavlich to discuss the preliminary hearing, the damage false accusations can cause to real people, and why Christians should be committed to the truth, even when speculation is trending. Do you need help reasoning with someone who's convinced they've uncovered secret knowledge? Download our free PDF with 37 conversation-starting questions to help encourage thoughtful, gracious, and biblically grounded discussions. Download it here and share it with your friends and loved ones. I think anytime you're encouraging people to discuss whether or not God wants, let's just be honest, wants Candace Owens dead. I mean, that's what you're saying, right, Frank? That's what you're saying? You've accused Candace Owens of these things, and now you're saying Deuteronomy 19 and God himself wants this result? You don't find that remotely problematic? You don't find that remotely problematic? I do. I think it's so irresponsible. Frank Turek has become, and he didn't have to be, he's become for me one of the great monsters in this entire story. Frank was a guy who, if you just watch the video of the horrific events at UVU on September 10th, Frank was a guy who looked on camera like he's just recording the festivities. He's like the one guy, in my opinion, up next to the tent who acts like somebody who's genuinely surprised it happened. He hits the deck. He's scrambling around. He runs off. He jumps in the back of the truck, but, you know, he had a good argument. He's Charlie's friend. He wants to be there till the end. It's very unlike Blake and Mikey McCoy, who just, you know, Mikey McCoy plugs his ears and walks off and keeps plugging his ears until way off in the distance. Not sure quite what that was about, but Frank's the one guy whose reactions look pretty normal. In the very initial phases, I was like, this guy couldn't possibly have had anything to do with this. But the more he talks, the more bloodthirsty he becomes, the more he sounds like somebody capable of pulling or being a part of something like this. Now, is he? I don't know. I'm not accusing him of it. But I am permitted to have an opinion based on all available evidence. And I listen to your changing stories. You're constantly changing narratives about what was done. Well, we did CPR. No, we didn't do CPR. Well, maybe we did it at the very end. Your hard line here, this divine punishment that should come to Candace and others who are investigating this, I think it's worthy of a little harder look at Frank. Is Frank who we thought he was? Or is Frank a monster? I'm starting to believe he's a monster. Starting to have good reason, Frank, to believe you're a monster. One more fun thing here. I don't even know if this is fun. It's frankly weird. Do you know that J.D. Vance wrote a book? J.D. Vance wrote a book. It's called Communion. Finding My Way Back to Faith. Well, I encourage people to find their way back to faith. I think if you read the book or if you know J.D. Vance's story, he left his faith for a number of years. And I think when he was 35 or so, sort of made his way back to church. Good. We love that. Encourage that. People dig in deep with the community, find a faith community you love, dig in, be moral, be good, be a better person. All in favor of that. What I'm not in favor of is where we found this book. Daisy sends me a copy of this and says, did you know J.D. Vance wrote a book? No, I wasn't aware. A new book, just coming out now? No, I wasn't aware. Do you know where you buy it? No, I don't. Where do you buy it? You buy it on the TPUSA website. TPUSA.com/communion26. That's where you buy it. I guess you donate to reserve a copy. Donate at least $75 maybe. I'm not sure. You will receive your copy of Communion as a special thank you for your donation of at least $75 to Turning Point USA. Huh? That's your distribution policy for this book? We're going to sell it through TPUSA in exchange for donations? That's a little weird, big man. Especially when they're coming out and endorsing you for president. Seems a little quid pro quo-ish to me, if I'm being honest. I don't know whether J.D. Vance is a good guy or a bad guy. He's frankly not been on the national scene long enough, in my opinion, to have made that determination. I know a lot of people think he's a really good guy, and I know a lot of people that think he's a monster. But I know this shocked me. That this is how you get his book. You go to Turning Point and make a donation to Turning Point of at least $75, and you get a copy of his book. It's very strange. Very, very, very strange. You can buy it other places, but yeah, you can get it at Turning Point. I did have one more thing to cover today, but on this, for the sake of time, I'll do it tomorrow. We'll probably do a show earlier tomorrow. If you liked the video today, go ahead and give it a like. I know you hate when I have to say that, but if I don't say it, people forget. Please, by all means, I would love it if you'd hit the like button, share the video with people you think might benefit from a scholarly discussion of what the filings are. A discussion based in reality, legal reality, and not just wild speculation or crazy gotcha comments and trying to get shares on X and all that. But somebody, and frankly, someone on the other side agrees with me. Look at Andrea Burkhart's post that we covered. She sort of agrees that this is not the time or place to raise those issues, and it is not a concession of any of these facts. I think anybody who's said that stuff on X should delete it. And probably put up I'm sorry, I misunderstood the legal standard. I apologize for misleading people. But we know they won't. That would require integrity. That would require honesty, and we don't anticipate that they will be doing that. But if you've not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. If you'd like to join, be a member, you can. We got a lot of stuff on the member side that is a lot of fun. And we had a member show yesterday that I thought was pretty fun. If you have not joined the Clips channel, ladies and gentlemen, if you've not joined the Clips channel, you can do so. I'll show you this here. This is, let me pull that down. This is the Clips channel, Baron Coleman Clips. It looks a lot like the branding on this channel, but it has this yellow clips in it. You get a little yellow circle here with clips. You go there and you get these little, I don't know, some of them 5, 10, 8, 12, 15, 20-minute clips. So different segments we've done. We've got an editor that goes through and distills those down, adds a little music bed, has a little fun with it, some fun little editing. But, yeah, so you can go through there and check those out as well. Those are easily shareable. What a big day. I was looking forward to the principal's take on this. I have to text her and ask her. So what's your take? Am I wrong? Am I right? What do we got here? All right, let's roll through some of these comments. Hey, B, would you be so kind to wish my cool autistic son, Cohen, the 1.3-pound baby, a happy birthday? He'll be 13 tomorrow. Number one fan from Kilgore, Texas. Go Max, Christ is King indeed. I hope he's bigger than 1.3 pounds now. You didn't say he was, but I assume he is. Happy birthday, Cohen. I hope it's a wonderful 13th birthday. Hello, everyone. Hi, Alicia. How you doing? They're talking about the shooter, not Tyler. This is probably just to prepare in the event that they don't get the verdict they want. I mean, obviously you have to set things up for appeal every step of the way. Finally, a member. Yay, loved episode last night. I thought it was a fun episode. Thanks for joining the members page. We had a lot of fun there. Member shows are a little different. We talked about the North Pole, how it wanders throughout time, how the temples around the world are set up in different locations. It's fun. We talked about crustal displacement, how the elites might be preparing to end the world. That's why they're building rockets and going underground. Guys, we had a lot of fun. If you're a member, you go watch it. If you're not, consider joining. The member shows cover different stuff. Cover different stuff. But Baron took your advice and asked AI for a prompt to help me diagnose a problem. When I fed it the prompt back, it responded with almost 50 points. Thank you for the tip. We covered that on the member show, too. Not yesterday, but a couple weeks ago. Yeah, people are using AI all wrong. Don't ask AI questions. Ask AI to write a prompt for you to answer questions. You will get a totally different answer, and it'll be a lot better. Big fan of these matinee shows. I like them, too. I like them as well, especially when I have something to do in the evening. One of two regarding earthquake weapon. Whistleblower Eric Hecker claims Raytheon has one on your favorite frozen land, causing the quake in Christchurch. You're talking about Australia. Well, when you say favorite frozen land, like Trump has a favorite frozen land, but it seems to be Greenland. I didn't mean Australia. I meant Antarctica. Yeah, Antarctica's weird. 2 of 2. My hairdryer is locked and loaded. Just say the word. We're going to melt Antarctica. Like, that's my life's mission. We need to melt Antarctica. I want all the ice off of Antarctica. Starting over from the ground. I want to see what's under there. Good afternoon, Baron. Excited for you to school us on the new documents. Love your number one Middle Tennessee fan. Christ is King indeed. Number one Middle Tennessee fan. Mrs. Coleman might argue with you about that. Have OCI in person tonight. Love the matinee. Christ is King indeed. Yeah, a lot of people do church on Wednesday, so matinees on Wednesday actually work out really nicely. You can thank Daisy. This was her idea to go early today. The world wants to know, what is your favorite P-Hub category? What is P-Hub? In all seriousness, who is your pick for the F1 World Driver Champion this year? I'm rooting for Kimi Antonelli. Is it FUB?
No, do not look that up.
Oh, okay. I won't.
It's inappropriate.
It's inappropriate. Knock it off. Knock it off. Whatever it means. I think I just figured it out. That is inappropriate. I'm rooting for Kimi Antonelli. Now, I'm not rooting for Kimi Antonelli. I'm a Max Verstappen guy and a Fernando Alonso guy. Those are my two favorite drivers in the history of racing sports in any division, any level. However, neither one of them has a chance to win. Kimi Antonelli's driving like a madman, and I'd love to see a teenager win the World Drivers' Championship. What a setup. What a life he would live after that. That would be crazy. That'd be crazy. So I guess I'm rooting for him. And he's leading, so. I was sitting by the pool here in Southwest Florida and had to grab a bourbon to join the matinee show. Joey Wright is not celebrating his sobriety, but that's okay. It's okay. We allow it. We do know there are people who can drink responsibly. Your humble host is not among them. Thoughts and prayers to Smoke Boy during this unexpected and difficult time. The level of cope is wild. Proverbs 1:22. I love a matinee. Thanks for all you do. Christ is King indeed. Thank you. I appreciate that. Very kind of you. Very kind of you. I hope Candace has her house blessed before and after Christ is King indeed. Yeah, that would be nice. That would be nice. She needs to do that. That's a good point. Maybe she has a holy water mister going at all times, and Andrew's just like doing this the whole time. Psst, don't mind it, Andrew. It's supposed to be soothing. I read about it in Southern Living. That's a magazine for you foreigners. What a double today. A solar eclipse and a matinee, Baron, from Epsom in Auckland. There's a solar eclipse today? Is that true? Yeah, there was. How about that? I didn't know that. Oh, it's over in Europe. That's why. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't look at the sun. Don't look at the sun. Emailed you my book and can send you a physical copy if preferred. Your North Pole video was excellent. I didn't mention the title because I won't use your platform for publicity. Thank you. I appreciate that. My research covers the pole shift, grand solar minimum, and much more. That sounds like a fun read. I'll check it out. PDF is fine. Don't worry about the hard copy. I'll be happy to look through the email and find it. Thank you. I'm looking forward to it, Cody. My claiming number one fan, County Durham. Christ is King indeed. County Durham. Sounds fancy. Sounds like rich people live there. We're going to County Durham, darling. We'll be weekending in County Durham. You know how we do it in County Durham. Yes. Every place in Europe sounds like that. Every British person sounds like they're rich. Even like the poorest British person. You can look at them being homeless and you hear them talk. You're like, how are you not rich? You sound like you're rich. You should be rich. Your last members only video about Earth's crust blew my mind.
From Vancouver, Washington, I have always had a fear of earthquakes and tsunami. New fear unlocked. Yeah, well, the good news is you'll only be afraid of it for like a second or two. Very interesting. More like that. Yeah, we'll do more like that. We'll do more like that. I haven't really gone into my Saturnian cosmology theory. Alt-Fed options to taking out Tyler Robinson in jail. Is that what you're saying? Rigged jury judge. No court recording transparency. Disappear Lance and delay while that's investigated. Yeah. I think you might be onto something. I put on my favorite maroon shirt to watch this. Oh, don't ever commit a crime in your favorite maroon shirt. I hope the world is filled with more men like you, good sir. When I behold men like Smoke Boy, I see a wretched darkness walking amongst us. Something disturbs the human instincts when watching him. It's the smoke. It's the smoke and the booze. More alt-fed. Oh, I just read that one. Oh, blame Candid. More alt. Declare a mistrial. Blame Candace. False flag attack. Threat to witness court. Blame Candace. Well, she's going to get blamed no matter what. No matter what goes wrong, she's going to get blamed. Thank you, Baron. Love this community. And Daisy, Christ is King indeed. I love you. Thank you. Also put on my favorite maroon shirt for this. Oh, we have multiple people wearing their favorite maroon shirt. We got to, Nurse Casey. We got to get some maroon shirts in the store. B, claiming number one fan in Illini country. First super chat. You are the best. Well, it's a very capitalized, definite article there, sir. Thanks for all your hard work and just for being and staying you in this high IQ outfit. Christ King indeed. Thank you. I appreciate the kind words and high praise. I've started calling the Fed sloppers Sloppy Joes. Love you, B. Christ King indeed. Hey, they are Sloppy Joes. There's Fed Sloppy Joes. My coworker is an evolutionary biologist, and I ran the member show past her, and she said, always follow what birds do when it comes to the North Pole, and it's shifting. Have you noticed the birds' migratory route is different, as has it's shifted, and the butterflies' migratory route has shifted, and Tornado Alley has shifted. It's all gone eastward. So something's changing. Something's changing up there. Good call. Good call. B, I love the show. Listen every day while at work. You inspire me to be a better human. God bless you and fam. Christ Green, indeed, from your number one real fan in Pittsburgh. No, oh, you're real number one fan. I was going to say, we have number one fake fans? Real number one fan in Pittsburgh. You got a couple people up there arguing with you about that. Smoke Boy looks like Fodron from Braveheart, who infiltrates and then tries to remove Wallace. What do you think? We'll have to look him up. Fodron from Braveheart. I almost put in Freedom because freedom. I don't think he looks like that guy. That guy's handsome. No offense, Smoke Boy. No offense. I always love a good edge of your seat noonish on Hump Day. Oh, a Hump Day nooner. That's on the West Coast. On the West Coast. Those people on the left coast out there got a Hump Day nooner today. Happened. Love the matinees. Prayers for Monday. But you have so much to look forward to. Hubs and my vacay has turned into 7 of us, kids and grands. Good memories. Christ King indeed. Yeah, Monday, I discussed this on the member show yesterday. And speaking of, you made me clip out that stupid Andy Griffith piece. So I linked it in the description. If you're watching it and all of a sudden it jumps, that's what happened. Go look in the description and you'll find the clip that I played. They made me clip it out because they're retarded. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. Bad word. They're ridiculous. I am trying to stop saying that word. I'm taking good advice from commenters who really got upset when I said it. So I learn. I take in feedback. I alter who I am. But yeah, on the member show, I discussed that Monday I'll be taking my son to college. I will not be doing a show on Monday, and it's hitting the home hard around here. It's hitting the home hard around here. Just a humble listener, my favorite broadcaster. Yesterday's mem episode was my favorite of all time. No, members episode. Things keeping you up at night are what I think about daily now since 5th grade. 9/11, Christ is King indeed. Oh man, you just made me feel old. I was in college. I was married on 9/11. I'm old. But thank you. Just a humble listener of my favorite broadcaster. Oh, I just read that. I believe you. Thank you. Hi, my B. Just wanting to say I am claiming the title number one fan in New Brunswick, Canada. Currently at work watching. I work in the mental health field. Oh, well, I hope you're doing good work there. A lot of people. You should have a never-ending supply of business. Have you been on X? You been on Twitter? Saw X Smoke Boy is trying to recoup his $300,000 online after debate was all his idea. I'm leaving that alone. I'm leaving that alone. I have strong opinions on that one, but I am leaving it alone. All right, I'll say I'm not going to leave it alone. The people donating to it supposedly hate Candace, but they're donating to a fund that is replenishing money given to Candace. So in effect, they're paying Candace. So if you donate to Smoke Boy, you're saying, I want Candace's kids to have piano lessons and take vacations. I've got strong opinions about that. It seemed like a little bit of a scammy thing. I believe powerful elites know about the approaching event and are withholding information. My book examines this and the regions likely to be affected. Thank you for your excellent work. Thank you, Cody. Appreciate that. Can the judge question if the video he notices the timestamp jumps? How would that occur? You've said he can refuse it, but can he penalize prosecution? I don't know if he can kind of sua sponte sanction prosecutors for that. But, you know, prosecutors have a duty of candor to the tribunal. That's a code of ethics. Like every lawyer has to agree to that, candor towards the tribunal. And I think that lacked candor. I do. I think if you're going to jump video around, you have to explain in real time. Now, this is jumping 7 minutes. Here's why we did it. It's happening. Don't just let it just jump and then everybody assumes it's not jumping. This is out of order. You know, we show them here, but it's actually, this should have been back. You have to explain it. You can't be dishonest towards the judge. But thank you. Good question. Don't believe the jealous gammas. Owen Benjamin crowdfunded for festival land, and it's one of the best and most honest donations I've ever made. And he's hilarious, as always. Thank you. You're talking about Bertaria. Contact Heidi Ganal about Victor Marks. His son was assistant to Kirk and let go on bad terms. Heidi has been on the compound. She ran for governor of Colorado in 22. I probably am not going to contact her, but I believe you, and someone else may take you up on that. Edge, dear sir, I've spent the last couple days listening to Charlie Kirk's sermons, and wow, how prophetic. He was brilliant. And one statement struck me as he was encouraging people to get involved in politics because churches, Christians what? I believe you. Cape Town, reporting for duty. Baron, I admire your tenacity. I have my doubts whether the truth will prevail. Let's hope and pray. I always go back, Nix, to JFK. Just because no one was held accountable in a court of law doesn't mean that hasn't been thoroughly examined. And people now understand that there was a patsy and the government very likely was involved. My M. I've been watching you since Candace show. What a surprise to come inside from watching the eclipse to see you're doing a matinee. Perfect evening to a perfect day. Number one fan from Dickelberg, Norfolk, Uck. Yeah. I always wonder if, like, the people who live in England are kind of upset that they have to refer to it as Uck. Like, you guys are like, oh, come on, it's Wales. Scotland. I mean, those people, we built a wall to keep them out at one point. Hadrian's Wall. Baron, what do you think about the viability of legal action taken against Clock Tower Salem, the Slop Squad, for intentionally tainting the jury pool? I think that would be very poorly received in court. Baron, please do a live reaction of you watching Candace rip Smoke Boy. A new one. The visual is cracking me up. I've been invited to a live react show, and I don't know whether I'm going to do that or not. Stay tuned. Baron, you rule. Please watch the South Park reaction episode of the Charlie Kirk Show. Very telling interactions between Charlie Kirk, Andrew Colvette, Blake Steff, Jack, and Tyler B. Thanks for the recommendation. Small fry, big lie, the robust kind of lies. Jesus loves you. Thank you. Small fry. Pickle jar with the receipts in it. Open the Smoke Boy. Open the jar, Smoke Boy. Come on, show us you can open the jar. Show us you've been squeezing one of those things that Julian Dory carries around everywhere. Typically avoid politics. So if unable to participate, support those who do. That's us. We can't do what you, candidates, etc. do, so we support y'all. We're doing what he asked. He didn't know it would be for him. Oh, that's a really excellent point, Edge. Thank you for making it. That's a very excellent point. Hey, B, since we know there's basically no chance the judge won't send this to trial, what's the chances the judge would let TR out on bail while awaiting the trial? Near zero. Near zero. Carrie, did you have something you wanted to say? You missed it. But thank you. Very kind of you. Baron, thanks for hosting this high IQ outfit. I learned something new every episode, and especially during your opening statements. Yeah, today was kind of a modified opening. You saw how long the show went anyway. It would have gotten out of control if I'd added like a 15 or 20-minute opening to it. Now, we hold. Love you, my B. Christ is king indeed. I don't know what you're getting at there, but I agree. We love you too. Top fan, Lesks, England, watching with my baby. Number one, to talk about this, no one to talk about this. Everyone thinks I'm a loon. On baby number 3, which also makes me a loon, apparently. No, you're just getting started. Keep going. More babies. I mentioned Michael Frankie case on Monday because Frank Gable was framed as a patsy by corrupt Oregon government. Spent 36 years in prison because of corruption and cover-up. Sound familiar? A la TR and Charlie Kirk. Oh, I got a... I mentioned in my opening the other day, I just in breezing and passing, the Central Park 5. And I got a text message today from a podcaster I've never actually interacted with before, but I've always liked and always followed. And he sends this message and he says, hey, love your show, but the Central Park 5 people were guilty as hell. I was like, I didn't look that closely into it. I know they were let out or they were exonerated. So, but I thought it was funny. Yeah, I thought that was funny. Viva is part of the tribe. Oh, is he Native American? Or is it a different tribe? Not Native American. Okay. Oh. Christ is king indeed. Thank you, Baron, for all you are doing. Well, thank you, Do Day D, for all you're doing. Couldn't do it without you. Sitting in a meet and greet, crocheting in the middle of a Sturgis rally. Not missing any, Baron. Keep it up. You're crocheting at Sturgis? I've always wanted to go to Sturgis. I don't even have a bike. Mrs. Coleman won't let me have a bike till my last kid's out of the house, and that'll be age 60. So I might have to wait until motorcycling comes in vogue in heaven. I don't know if I want to get on a bike at 60. I used to ride all the time. I loved it. What about the footage from a stairwell after the Big Bang? Have we seen that? Who else was walking around there? Greetings from Croatia. Love you. No, but that would be a good thing to get. Stairwell footage for like 30 minutes before and after. And see who all comes and goes. That maybe like 45 minutes, like 20, 25 minutes on either side of it, that stairwell. That's a good call. But we'll never see it. We'll never get it, but that would be good to get. Hail King Baron. Thank you, Daisy, Queen, Principal, and everyone else on this side of the Fed Slop. Hope everyone have friends and family that would care this much for them. No small fries. Thanks. Agreed. Allows the Baptist to get to church in the night. When the bell tolls at 6:30, peek out your windows to watch Baptists sneaking off to Bible study. Yeah, I will. I see him driving around. 10 and 2, baby. The Baptists don't speed. They're 10 and 2. Hey, Baron, very much like to request clips of your opening statements. I would enjoy learning from you on each and every one of them. Your absolute number one fan in WDM, Iowa. Thank you for all you do. I'm sure that's a lovely place. It's probably corn somewhere near there. If I had to guess. Hey, B, got a new pair of checked Vans today, fresh and dressy. Do you recall seeing water bottles under Charlie's feet? Chair, weird, right? First, you have high taste in shoes. I actually own a pair of checked Vans myself. They're beautiful. Do I recall seeing water bottles under his feet? I do, but I also, that chair he was in sat up a little bit, and his feet didn't sit flat on the ground, and I could see him putting something under his feet just to kind of make it so his feet were level, and they weren't just like dangling, you know. He's a big guy, but that was a big chair. So I don't know if I make too much out of it. He had on plastic-soled shoes, and the water bottles were in plastic. I can't imagine it had any impact on what happened, but I don't know. I stopped to put my headband on to watch this. I want to be just like Candace. These people are insufferable. Miss Bailey, she rocks a headband, if we're being honest. King Baron, my liege. Keep that pinky up, sir. Christ is king indeed. Did I have my pinky up when I was drinking water? I did. Where was Erica a few weekends back? Oh, I did say I would tell you by the end of the week. If I say now, let me finish the comment. Christ King is also Christ King also off topic. I want you to know that your laugh and voice makes my nonverbal so happy. When you laugh, he laughs. Oh, well, that does make me feel very good. It does make me feel very good. I was told you went to Tucker's. Right about the time Tucker started getting involved and making comments. Baron, regarding my comment yesterday about the Amazon, it's from a doc on why we can't penetrate deep today. It's from a doc on why we can't, a documentary on why we can't penetrate deep today. The early civilizations and indigenous are successful because they work with nature, not against. Our machines, navigation gadgets, and sissy bodies are useless. Oh, that's what you meant. Okay. That makes sense. That makes a lot more sense. I didn't understand what you were saying. So I was like, well, it can't be impossible because they have these thriving civilizations down there. Can you give me an example of a leading in court? Like a leading question? Sure. So there's on direct examination, cross-examination. On direct examination, typically, you're not allowed to ask leading questions. There are exceptions. But you're typically not allowed to ask leading questions. Leading questions are questions that say the answer in the question. So, for example, you were at home at 5 p.m. on Friday night, correct? That's a leading question. Where were you Friday night? That is not a leading question. The answer isn't presumed or isn't stated in the question. That's a leading question. You were at home. Where were you? It calls for a narrative answer. Oh, I was at home. Were you at home at 5 o'clock? Yes, I was at home at 5 o'clock. Okay. So that's the difference. I hope that explains it. If you need more examples, let me know. The truth will prevail. I truly believe this. Christ is king indeed. I hope so. On this one back here. So there's a really good book. I don't know if I have it up here. It's called The Art of Cross-Examination. I read it before I went to law school, and I read it again after. It's really good. Has some of the greatest cross-examinations in legal history at the time. It's an old book. But they're like transcribed in the book, and so you can read them. The best cross-examinations don't ask open-ended questions at all. In fact, it's not the witness testifying, it's the lawyer. If I want to say that you were at home at Friday at 5 o'clock and you received a phone call from the doctor, and the doctor told you you had diabetes, and then you got angry and you threw a frying pan across the room and you struck your dog and killed it, injured it. Let's not kill the dog in this hypo. If I want to ask you those questions, and I'm on direct examination, I have to ask them broadly. So where were you Friday night? Well, I was at home. Did anyone call you? Well, yeah, I got a call from a doctor. Oh, what did the doctor tell you? Well, the doctor told me I had diabetes. How did you react? Oh, I was angry. When you were angry, did you do anything to express your anger? Yeah, I threw a frying pan. Well, where did it land? Did it hit anything? Yeah, it hit a dog. What happened to the dog? The dog was injured. So that's a good direct examination. I'm drawing it out of you through narrative form. Cross-examination, you were at home Friday night. Yes. And you received a phone call from the doctor. Yes. And the doctor told you had diabetes. Yes. And you got angry. I did. You got angry, so angry you threw a frying pan. That's correct. And the frying pan hit the dog. That's right. And it injured the dog. That's correct. See the difference? Cross-examination, I'm testifying as the lawyer. I'm telling you what happened. I'm just eliciting a series of yeses. Direct examination, I'm asking them questions in narrative form because I'm not allowed to ask leading questions. I hope that makes sense. There are exceptions, but generally speaking, that's accurate. Truth will prevail. Oh, well, we already read that, and I still agree. Still want it to be true. Related to Oklahoma City bombing, look up Kenneth Trentadue, who got arrested then died in Fed custody. Brother was high-powered attorney. Would be great opening and very Fed slop relevant to today. I've read that story about Kenneth Trentadue. That would be a good opening, actually. That'd be a very good opening. Good call. He was obliterated. Sam Altman topic yesterday. Juan Bronco, ICC lawyer, represents Palestinian kids, posted Mossad hacked his phone. They messed up and uploaded a ton of their contacts, including Sam Altman and Elon Musk. Oh. Okay. Roger that. Barron, next twist is that it doesn't go to trial per judge. No Fed slop exposed. Tyler walks. TPUSA makes millions off perceived injustice. Boy, I can't imagine that's going to happen, but that would be wild. Hi, Blakey. Hi, Frank. Sorry, no caps and gowns for you. No, well, they need them, though. Well, they didn't graduate because they're not smart enough. Too low IQ. In my hotel room at Cedar Point, listening to you. Cedar Point, isn't that a theme park up in Ohio or Michigan? What are your thoughts on Charlie still being alive? I don't want to believe it. The behavior of his supposed friends and Erica make me wonder. I'm not a believer that Charlie's alive. I've entertained it. I've thought about it. There were a couple weeks where I kind of thought that might be the case, 6-8 months ago. But no, I think if Charlie's alive, he is one of the worst human beings ever, and I just don't believe that about him. But to allow all this to take place, to allow Tyler Robinson to sit in custody like that, to allow him to be potentially subjected to the death penalty, I don't think that's Charlie. There's already a book about evil pastors like Frank Turek, 2 Corinthians 11:13-15. I will take your word for it. I'll take your word for it. My B. Greetings from the Northeast. Finally got to catch a live. You're loved in this house. My 9-year-old loves Uncle B. Keep going, Max. Christ is king indeed. Uncle B. I'll allow it, Jeffrey. Thank you. RB. Not even one of the many Maroon boys have come forward to say who they are. Just confirms they are paid IMO. Keep up the awesome work. That's a good point I hadn't considered. You'd think there'd be a lineup of them saying, I had on maroon. I wasn't doing anything wrong. I love my maroon shirt. I didn't want to wear a gray shirt. It was 91. I was afraid I'd pit out. So I went with something a little darker. Guys, it's simple. Let me infer to your inferences as inferentially uninferable. Inferably misinferred, and by inferential inference, inferacious. Okay? Okay. Thank you, Ginger Mama. These regular law lessons have me believing I'm a lawyer. When I give my husband updates on this case, he'll say, you watched the attorney guy Barron, didn't you? Proudly, yes. Yes, I did. Oh, that makes me feel better. You can say that I let Andrea Burkhart weigh in as well today. First time, long time. My B. Candace says she's not intimidated by Smoke Boy and crew. Get it? Understood? However, I beg you please, as a friend, ask her to do a pro-bug bomb sweep after they leave. Christ is king indeed. I don't know about the last part. I don't think they would plant a bomb. A bug? Perhaps. Again, I think, I know, I've been to her house, and I know how to get it. I know how it works, and I know where the studio is, and I know that she could limit where they go. But I will say this, and I don't think she'd care if I said this. Her husband's paranoid. They sweep the house for bugs all the time. I don't think she'd care if I said that. I mean, I don't. Maybe if I spoke out of school, Candace, I really apologize. But yeah, no, I mean, I don't think it would be unusual for him to sweep before and after they were there. Heidi ho there, neighbor. Sending love from Abilene, Texas. Abilene, home of Abilene Christian University. Yeah. I knew a guy who used to be the head librarian there. He's now at Kansas State. He's a great human being, by the way. I genuinely like his friendship. He's a great guy. Has anyone proven TR is even gay? You mean happy? Like Mikey? McCoy? We've been told, but is there proof? I mean, what kind of proof are you looking for? Like videography? What are we looking for here? I doubt it, frankly. I don't think he was. Maybe. In my humble opinion, the evidence and supporting info is so terrible because they did not take into consideration that TR was going to still be here. They're desperately trying to make it work. Well, it's not working. I agree. I agree with you 100%. Not saying you should, but it'd be very interesting to watch you debate Viva on this filing since he's taking the opposite stance. Well, but I don't have to debate him. I just told you why he's wrong. What's he going to say? Oops, I don't understand American law. My humble host, My teenage daughter wants to be a lawyer. Any good lawyer movie recommendations? So far, we've watched Philadelphia and My Cousin Vinny. Christ is king indeed. Yes, there's a movie called 1L. 1L. Watch it. It's a little dated. It's a guy going to law school back in the 70s, but it's to me pretty accurate. There's also one, maybe it's The Paper Chase. I think it's called The Paper Chase. I think rather than watching movies about lawyering, because those are usually pretty unrealistic, watch movies about law school and not Clueless or whatever that movie was where she went to law school. There's a book called 1L. It's very enlightening. And I think they made a movie out of it. And then there's a book called The Paper Chase. But I may be thinking of The Paper Chase is based on 1L, so get me wrong on that. But those are the two movies. Those are two things I would consume, 1L and Paper Chase. My B, see Y-Files pod with Dr. Travis Taylor, aerospace engineer, UAPTF scientist on Skinwalker Ranch, black holes, deep state, Nikola Tesla, and Sean Ryan? Interesting. What's that song? Sean Ryan? I don't know. Got to repeat yourself. There's a lot of low IQ Joes out there. I do repeat myself a lot. It's an old radio habit, and I can't get away from it. And I know people criticize me all the time. I see it in the comments, guys. Trust me, I read your comments, some of them. And I see people all the time. Why does he repeat himself all the time? Well, because people are doing other stuff. And if you only say stuff once, a lot of people miss it. How do I know that? Because I get a lot of follow-up questions of things I've already answered. I'm not complaining, but that's why I repeat myself so much. So if you want to know why I repeat myself, it's because of experience. I'm kidding. Leave the room alone. The feds... ... How would Tyler know the feds would be involved? Seems even more staged. It's a local crime scene, not federal. That's a really good point. And that got past me. How did he know that? Oh, maybe. Well, what time did he send that? Because there was news coverage of the feds being on the scene pretty soon. Like Cash Patel showed up on the scene before Tyler Robinson turned himself in. So giving them the benefit of the doubt. But that's a good point. It's interesting that the person who wrote the text said the feds would search his room. Why would he think that instead of just thinking the Utah cops would do it? Well, I think I just tried to address that the best I could. I don't want to repeat myself. Baron. I want to be like you when I grow up. I'm 47, thinking about law school, but I wonder if it's too late in the game since I'm of geriatric age. Well, I'll say this. When I was in law school, I went with several people who were in their 40s and 50s. One guy was like in his 70s. He was an excellent student, by the way, because he had a life of experience. He didn't have anything to do. He just studied all the time. He wasn't out at the bars on Thursday night with everybody else. He was just like steady Eddie, man. He came in, he was prepared. Notes typed up every class. He, making edits. He was great. It's never too late. It's just, be realistic about the cost, the time commitment, the opportunity cost, the income you're giving up while you're going, and then what kind of job prospects you'll have coming out on the other side. But as long as you go into it soberly, I don't discourage it at all. Give me examples of evidence that supports sending this to trial. I don't see any. Well, from a layman's perspective, perhaps you don't, but from a legal perspective, I think they probably roughly met their burden, or barely met their burden. But, they showed there was a gun there. They tied it to Tyler. They had testimony that Tyler was identified on campus. They had testimony that Tyler had been engraving bullets. There were engraved bullets in the gun. They had testimony that the bullet could probably closely be a match. I think there's enough to send it to trial. I just disagree that they should. A.K. Blakey, feds are spinning truth. Defense hadn't admitted guilt. Their motion argues strictly on legal grounds. Even under the state's own narrative, the prosecutors failed to meet Utah statutory requirements for the death penalty. Thank you. Agreed. That was on my whole show today. I agree with you. On my way to Auburn to cheer and drum for the women's soccer team as they play Clemson. Then I load up a U-Haul and drive 28 hours to move my baby to Salt Lake City, Utah. College bound. He chose the U long ago. War Eagle. Christ is king indeed. I'm happy. You should be happy, Jess. It's right there in your name. Just happy. Yeah, go root on those Auburnites. Go root them on. War Eagle. War Eagle, fly down the field. Ever to conquer, never to yield. War eagle, fearless, true. Fight on, you orange and blue. Go, go, go. I'm not going to do the whole song, but I could. Finally cut alive. We love you, Baron and Daisy from Lancashire. Yuck. Thanks for all your hard work and sacrifice. Christ is king. Indeed. Hunter Kozak, in a new interview, said he and his wife Shelby left 3-day-old NICU baby parentless to attend Provo. Shelby filmed but ultimately didn't release footage as she didn't respond to the bang. Your 74, 75 episodes were spot on. I need to catch that. It's in my queue, and I keep meaning to watch it, and then I get distracted watching other things. I did a mashup of your coincidences and Erica. It's on your X. Enjoy. Oh, Miss Maples. I'm very bad about seeing things on X. If you'll email it to me, I'll have a much better chance of watching it. Thank you. Watching from Sveden. Would love to hear your summing up of the case to the jury as if you were TR's defense lawyer. Do it as an opening. I don't know what the evidence is going to be. I can't do that yet. I think as the case comes closer to fruition, perhaps that would be possible. I've kind of done that here and there based on what we know to date, but we don't know what all the evidence is going to be. There may be much stronger evidence, but thank you. We argue motions the same way in Canada. Well, then Viva has no excuse. Viva, you're without excuse. Viva, David, has many weasel words in his post. He knows exactly the smear campaign he's doing and coordinating with others. Go back north, David. Twit. Twit. I did not call you a twit, Viva. And I'm not going to dead name you, Viva. But I think you're wrong. Dead wrong. Can't the defense argue the state's circuitous case is itself telling? The compressed video, the dead body-worn camera, the missing minutes, etc. They could have. They chose not to, for whatever reason, strategically made that decision not to. I would have spent a little more time on it. I mean, they hinted at the missing minutes. They hinted at it. They didn't really come out and say it. That these, maybe they will in their closing summation orally. We'll see. Both Wilsons incorrectly use apostrophes. Fridays, not Fridays. PhDs, not PhDs. We are the plural spellings they're seeking. I'm surprised they didn't learn that in school. Wasteful PhDs. Do they claim to have PhDs? Well, he claimed to serve in the Army, too. So, I just want to confess, I used to appreciate Frank Turek a lot when I got into Christian apologetics. I thought he was brilliant. But now he has me questioning if I'm really bad at seeing through people. People change, sometimes for the worse. I think that's Turek. Gifted 10 membos. So 10 of you can go watch me be crazy yesterday about the North Pole and the potential end of the world that the elites are conspiring to create. Baron, please consider offering perhaps Mrs. Coleman, too. A wingman for Candace, boots on the ground. A Charlie. Offering wingman for what? For her debate? She can handle a debate. She doesn't need anyone in there. I'm sure her team will be there. And if she asked, I would 100% go, but I've not been asked. Baron, you can't put all Canadians in the same category as the Canadian lawyer. I am Canadian, and I do not believe in the Fed slop. That's because you're smart. You're high IQ. No one accused Viva of that. Go Max for Charlie Kirk. Thankful for your teaching. Thank you for your kind words. We lost my mom unexpectedly yesterday. Oh, my gosh. She was only 58. Suffered from MS and had gone down the past 2 years. She was an amazing mom and even better mama. I know this isn't goodbye, but see you later because she's with Jesus, but it still hurts. Please pray, especially for my kids and dad. Oh, my gosh. I can't imagine. 58 is so young. It did not used to seem young. When I was in high school, 58 might as well have been 200. But now it is so young. I'm so sorry to hear that, Tabby. I will certainly pray for you and your family. Gosh, I'm sorry to hear that. Hey, my B, thank you for all your detail, especially in the filings. It scratches my nosy itch. Christ is king indeed. That could be the cocaine. No, I'm kidding. I would never accuse you of that. Reading 1 Timothy this morning. I found 3 through 5 interesting. Good. 1 Timothy's a good book. Pros versus cons. Jury trial versus bench trial. Christ is king indeed. I've tried both. I've tried bench trials and I've tried jury trials. They're different. They're fundamentally different because the person weighing in on the admissibility of evidence is the one considering it. So even if he excludes it, he still heard it. So that's a little different dynamic there. Sometimes it works to your favor. I had one particular trial, two actually. We tried to a bench trial instead of a jury trial. Both were acquittals. Well, on most of the charges. You got dinged on a couple of small things, but the big charges that would have kept him in prison for like 30 years or more were acquitted on a bench trial. We chose a bench trial. The one guy resisted, did not want to do a bench trial. And of course, you have to waive the right to a jury on the record. So it was, he did it, and it worked out in his favor. The other guy, as soon as we pitched it to him, he's like, yeah, let's do it. I don't want to face a jury. These people are going to hate me. And so the pros are the judge typically is not as swayed by inflammatory facts. The downside is the judge is usually not swayed by emotional appeals either. And sometimes emotional appeals are your best friend. So, it's a case-by-case basis. I've done them both. And, get what you get. Get what you get. Have I ever gotten just creamed on a bench alone trial? I haven't tried very many of them. No. I don't think we've ever had a really bad result on a bench alone trial, a judge alone trial. Verse 5. I believe you. I have no. You talking about 1 Timothy again? I believe you. Today's show is long, so I'm not having an opportunity to stop and look stuff up as I go because we'll be here a long time if we do. Evening, Baron, even though it's not evening. Love it when you tip your hat. Checking in from Idaho this afternoon. Evening, Miss Milray. Christ is king indeed. Baron, sorry I'm late for class. I'm working so I'm having to listen while at work. Well, I hope it's not impeding your ability to do a good job. Stoked for this matinee show. Super grateful for all you do, Baron. God bless you and your family, and keep fighting the good fight. Christ is king indeed. I will do so. Thank you. My B and Light Squad. I failed contract law first try. Whole class did. Wow, that's a teacher problem, not a student problem. Second try, scored an A. Hearsay evidence was more challenging to me. Did you fail any law classes? Make me feel better, please. And shout out to my sister. I did pretty well in law school. I got the top grade in 2 classes. I did pretty well. I did not fail any classes. I remember my lowest class, my lowest grade ever, and I'm irritated by it. It was criminal procedure 2 of all things. I took an extra criminal procedure because I took Crim Pro 1 and did really well. And I thought, well, okay, that wasn't hard. Let me do Crim Pro 2. Crim Pro 2 is a nightmare for me. For some reason, it was very difficult. I don't know if it was the teacher. There was like 100 people in there, and other people seemed to do well. I was taking a tough load that time. I had a federal tax class that was very full of minutia. I had a seminar class that was supposed to be easy, but we ended up reading like 3 books that were 800 pages each, and it took all my time. And it was a professor I really liked, which is why I took the class. And it turned out to be a much heavier lift than I thought. And I think I did short shrift on the Crim Pro homework because I had done so well the first time. And I think that was probably part of the problem. I didn't fail it, but I didn't do as well as I expected. PBD said he got calls about being the next leader of Iran starting July 2025 while he was in the Hamptons, considered for 2 to 3 months, then declined. Do you think it's relevant to him moderating? Yes. Yes, I do. Frank is salting the mind. Such a fake Fed boy. Agreed. Serby, you will recall that Andrew Colvette told Candace it was supposed to be you. Frank Turek has no qualms about making that a reality. Christ is king indeed. Those are harsh words. Those are harsh words indeed. We need to cure Frank Turkey's allergy to the New Testament because it's important that he reads this passage and learns it by heart. 1 Timothy chapter 5, verses 9 through 15. Bit long to read on air. I agree, but people now have it. They can go look it up. Reread all those text messages the other way around. All I hear is Lance Twiggs telling Tyler what to do in them. I think those were his messages. I will have to do that. I'm trying to think of them. Don't touch the room. The feds will take care of it. Be polite. Listen. That's pretty close to crazy now that you mention it. Frank Turek is trying to radicalize people against Candace. He better hope nothing happens to her. I know the first person I'm looking at. Absolutely chilling. Yes, Frank is a bad guy, in my opinion. At this point, he's just a bad guy. He's certainly got bad motives. And also, number one fan in Marble Falls, Texas, since the Googles trended. Man, you've been around a long time. Anyone who believes Frank Turek is a man of God should check themselves in for a complete psych eval. As Jesus said more than once, you will know them by their fruits. He needs our prayers along with all fallen souls. Yeah. All have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. That's Romans 3:23, ladies and gentlemen. Your Catholic knows his Bible. TP is the new APAC. Changed my mind. Well, they're not a pack, but they might be aligned with them. JD Vance. Oh, that was who called him that? I can't think of her name. The rapper, Nicki Minaj. Didn't she call him that by mistake? Baron, love your show. Hope you will give Candace some advice for her debate. Did you see that Smoke Boy has a Give Send Go account that has raised over $50,000 so far? Wow, so shady. Yeah, I saw that. Please upload the PDF of the opposition motion. It's available. I mean, it's out there. I don't know where I would upload it to. I don't have a website we use that uploads stuff. Thank you for all you do. Christ King indeed. Thank you for all you do. Somebody commented under Andrew's Gifts and Go not to forget to bring CK's letter to BB. If he does, I believe it will be a revision of the original. I'm praying Candace has a copy of the original. Christ is King indeed. Pray together for CO. That's good advice. That's very good advice, actually. Baron, watched your member show yesterday. Had 8 kids. And yes, letting go is not easy. It will get easier. Christ is King indeed. I don't know. Gosh, I don't want to think about it right now. Baron will judge sequester the jury. No one fan, Longview, Texas. God bless you. I doubt it, but I don't know. It's such a hard decision to do that. Thank you for sharing your experience and knowledge. Christ is King indeed. Just a quick note. Blake Sneff reminds me of Dwight from Scary Movie 2. Was he a bumbling idiot or something? Could he not control his urges? What a convenient way for JD to capture the data of his book sales. I wonder where else that data ends up. TPUSA would never commingle funds, but, well, number one fan from Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. Canada is considered one of the highest educated population of the world. Cannot say U.S. cannot say same. Well, I mean, what's educated, you know? A 1-month member, Kathleen, just checking in, letting us know. Thank you, Kathleen. Appreciate that. B, maybe you've already covered this, but please explain how Frank can do this. Isn't he, along with everyone in SUV with Charlie, a witness? I'm truly confused. Christ is King indeed. Cut and Shoot Texas is real. Love you. I believe it's real. I've talked to now 2 people from Cut and Shoot Texas, or heard in comments from 2 people, Cut and Shoot Texas. Is he? I think he's a witness. I don't think he should be out there declaring guilt, but the judge hadn't said anything about it. Dang it, I missed the matinee. Nonetheless, much love to our humble host, number one fan from the Miami Valley, Ohio. Christ is King indeed. Is that where Miami University is? I know it's in Ohio. They always say Miami, and then in parentheses like OH, like not that Miami, other Miami. Ben Roethlisberger, Miami. Thank you, Baron. Great show. Thank you. Candace should not do the debate. Smoke Boy will back out. I doubt he backs out at this point. The debate's happening. Edge, thank you, sir, for educational explanation. Love you. Well, of course, Edge. I'm always here for you. On 8-9, I really thought you were going to cover why the tent was raised in relation to a possible DEW unaliving CK, but you did not. Please expand on this. Thank you. I can't expand because I don't know. I'm still looking at it. But just trust me, this is in my mind, and I am strongly considering there was some sort of advanced weaponry used. I'm not a doctor, but I can take a look. Dr. Frank. Oh, he's a doctor. I forgot he's a doctor. No wonder he's doing CPR in the back of the van. Have you talked to the TPUSA volunteer witness, Jeb, yet? He said on another podcast he would like to clear his name with you. I have. We had a good conversation. He did a good job. The other night you wondered which platform was selling the Freedom shirts. I bought one, so I know. It was from the CK Show Store on Shopify. Can email receipt. Huntsville Fan 1A. Would you email it to me? I would appreciate it. I'd love to see it. Thank you. Hi, B. Love this show. By the way, Crazy Rabbi, who Candace debated, is in Iceland, provoking people. Feel iffy about him being there, causing drama. Blessings. Yeah, Iceland's in trouble. I know we have Icelandic fans here because I've seen their comments, but they got bad plans for Iceland. I got bad news for you guys. I don't know who they're planning to put there, but it's not going to be good for you. Do you think by all of us voicing our concern about TR safety, maybe they won't mess with him because they know we all are onto them and watching? It won't hurt, but I don't know that it'll help. Frank Turek freaks me out, considering he shares birthday with Erica Kirk, 2 peas in a pod. Well, which birthday? Which Erica Kirk birthday? There are 2 of them, remember? November 20, November 22. We're not sure which one it is. Her parents didn't even know. Dude is stone cold in the worst way. He was able to be more in character and believable the day of because he's psychotic. Well, that's your opinion. That's your opinion. Matinee equals pre-party. Well, except for today. Well, yeah. Well, we were pre-gaming. We were pre-gaming, and then the game got canceled. But we're still here. We're still partying. Former Candace employee Mark Herman has been to Antarctica. Look up A Lot in Common podcast. They interviewed him. It was fascinating. Thanks for all you do. Love from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. We get a lot of Iowans here today. Christ King indeed. I'll take your word for it. I've read a lot about Antarctica. 1080 11. What's going on here? Baron, I traded my glittery pantsuit for a cap and gown to be here. By the way, did you get the booklet I sent you from the author Jesus Kept His Word? I did get that, actually. I did get that. Thank you. It feels so wrong to say, but if it weren't CK's death, I would still be fooled by our government and mainstream media. But now I question everything. So grateful for people like Candace and our humble host, Christ is King indeed. That's why they don't want us talking about this, because the Charlie Kirk story unlocks so much. It unlocks so much that they really don't want us talking about this at all. Number 1 fan watching from Ireland. Love your podcast. You're one of life's true gentlemen. God bless you. Well, thank you. That's very kind of you. True gentlemen? Baron, do you think there's any merit to the theory that the GoFundMe was launched to shift attention away from TPUSA's involvement, or do you think that's a stretch? No, I just think he's just trying to make money. I mean, I think someone else, in my opinion, someone else paid the $300,000, or maybe he paid a little bit of it. But I think someone put the money up. If I had to guess, I could guess where it came from. And now he's just crowdfunding money to keep. That's just my guess. I don't know that to be true. I'm just guessing. TPUSA head advisor found dead. Who? I need a name. Number 1 Croatian fan here. Christ King indeed. We're big in the Balkans. Huge in the Balkans. Diligent spends lots of time on a white car that you turn near the gun drop-off site. Can we get sharper image to prove it is a Kia Soul, as he posits? It is. Lost Civilizations, Graham Hancock. Lots of archaeological shifting topography. Curious and loves puzzles. Great member show yesterday, Baron and Daisy. I have read a lot of Graham Hancock. I've watched a lot of Graham Hancock. I've listened to a lot of Graham Hancock. I'm a fan. Watch Tim Dillon's excerpt from the book. Hilarious. That's that book. I do remember him reading an excerpt of it about ball worshiping. I do remember that. A simple question. Well, Miss Maples, I'll be the judge of whether this is a simple question or not. Since the projectile obliterated C2 and C7, C2 to C7, and came to rest just beneath his skin, what in the hell did we watch blow a hole in his neck? Oh, I don't know. That's not a simple question. Our humble host, thank you so much for giving an honest interpretation of the defense statement from an honest attorney. Christ is King indeed. Lady Di, I'm doing my best out here. Not the Lady Di. She got died. Thank you for that. Very kind. Where is the debate? I definitely don't want to miss it. Thanks, fellow jury members. Friday, Candace Owens' channel. Not sure what time. But Friday. Thank you, B. Thank you, Marlena. Appreciate it. Gunther Eagleman charges $300 a post. MAGA shill. Like people pay him to post stuff? That's a thing? It's weird. Does he list it as a paid post? Eldest of 3 daughters going to university in Chicago. We live in California. I feel like a piece of my soul is being ripped from me. Grieving the end of her childhood and being so far away. Proud, but heartbroken. Christ is king indeed. Yeah, I'm thankful my son's not going very far. So I'll be able to see him a lot. I don't have to put him on a plane and all that. I am thankful for that. He wanted to stay close to home, and he is. But it'll be a drive. Like, it's not something he would just like pop in. But it's not like airplane far. I enjoyed the member show yesterday. Hugs to you and Mrs. Coleman. I'm thankful you allowed us to see the gentle side of our humble host. Christ is king indeed. Mrs. Coleman accused me of crying on air. I did not cry. I got misty-eyed. Misty-eyed. There's a difference. Crying, to me, the tears have to roll. There were no rolling. There was no rolling. I was not doing the Erica. No rolling. In my opinion, all are in on it. Sad. God bless y'all. Yeah, sad. Katie Bug. I being crew yesterday's member show had me crying to panic. These changes they may be doing is very scary. Keep up the fantastic work. Love from one of those countries. Oh, Australia. I see the A-Bucks there. Christ is king indeed. I didn't mean to scare you. It's supposed to be not alarmed, focused. Your show is my guilty pleasure. Your comment is mine, Miss Evers. I had a Miss Evers that taught me English in high school. Miss Evers, is that you? She was tall. Like tall, like 6 foot tall. She was a big girl. Not fat, just tall. Well, no. She was tall, Miss Evers. I forgot about her. Glad you reminded me of her. Viva Cristo Rey. Oh, thank you. Indeed. Baron, do you think there's any merit to the theory that GoFundMe was launched to shift attention away from TPUSA's involvement, or do you think that's a stretch? Oh, I thought I answered that. I think I answered that. Did the defense's filing in any way, even 1%, change your opinion of how this will proceed? Potential plea? How they plan to proceed? If you thought client innocent, would you file similar at this point? Even 1%? Yeah. It changed me 1%. Just because I was expecting a little more aggression, I guess. But I'm a little more aggressive maybe than they are. Go the week before Sturgis, not the week of. Having done both, I'll never go during the rally again. Left Friday before all the fatalities this week. Fatalities? Maybe I don't want to go to Sturgis. That's why Mrs. Coleman won't let me on a bike until the kids are grown up. Baron, I'm 57 and riding my 04 Sporty in Sturgis. Wow, look at you guys. We got a bunch of bikers in the chat. I had no idea. When you say cake sniff, it reminds me of a series of unfortunate events with Neil Patrick Harris. Cake sniffer. I bet he's a cake sniffer, too. Blake, do you sniff cakes? B, definitely according to Fed Slop. TR did it. Him on video, concealed rifle, fry him. Actual defense. State didn't prove PC. Court must decline bind over. Yes, that's correct. That's a better summary than I gave, Mr. Honcho. Better summary than I gave. I am super appreciative of your breakdown of the recent filings. Thank you, Baron and Daisy. Christian, Critter. You're welcome. Check out the comments section of the PBD podcast with Ben Shapiro. He paid his people to bot it with positive comments. Here we voluntarily pay you to give you positive comments. What the heezy. Well, how do we know he paid to bot it? I'll have to go look it up. I mean, is it that obvious? Trust Tucker now with his knowledge. His lack of position publicly beyond loving C and E is so sus. Help. I think he just desperately wants this to go away. Like, he does not want to have to wade in, I think, with any firm conviction. But I don't know that to be true. I've not talked to him about it. Amazon JD Book, less than $23 hardcover or ebook. Christ is king indeed. Or you can pay $75 to TPUSA and get it. Your call. Gary got a mini 30-6, believing Fed Slop 5.6. That's funny. That's funny. I was watching Coach this morning. That's where the tiny Gary came from. Makes me laugh how you get increasingly annoyed with your own stupid questions. I so appreciate what you do, how, and why. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I do get increasingly annoyed with my own stupid questions. That's a good observation. It's me, though. It's me getting annoyed with myself. Hey, B, first, love you. Oh, Sam, love you too, Joshua. Second, have you ever wondered if TPUSA are also being blackmailed or under pressure by them to go along with their sinister plot? Yeah, I've not wondered. I've assumed. I've assumed that's the case, particularly some of those that might have been late to the party. My 8-year-old daughter during Barron yesterday, what's a kidnapper's favorite shoe? White Vans. That's actually really funny, Ashley Galadina. That's actually really funny. I'm going to steal that. Next time someone comments on my Vans, I'm like, well, at least I'm not wearing my kidnapper Vans. If they're like, what? Kidnapper's favorite shoes are white Vans. Candace said yesterday, George Sweeps. Woo! Thank you. I did not want to be the one to say that out of school. But yeah, he's obsessive. That's good, though. That's good. He's a protective husband. He should be. Great show as always. Hit the like button, friends. Heather told you, not your humble host. I didn't tell you. Baron, you're okay. Just okay. Oh, Candace stated on her last podcast her husband often sweets us for us. Good. Holy water and diffuser recommendation for Candace. Yes. And just soak the chair so when he gets up, he's got like a wet hiney. It's okay, sir. It's holy water. Holy water. It's been blessed. Yes. I've got some at the house. I can take it over there. Does the contradicting apostles give weight to Frank Turek's point that people can remember things different and not be dishonest also? Or the other way around, how can inconsistencies be trusted regarding the foundation of Christianity? So I'll take those in order. Yes, actually. People do remember things differently. So there's always that when you have multiple eyewitness testimony. Frankly, there's always that when you have single eyewitness testimony that the eyewitness might not be very reliable and not on purpose. Not like they're lying. Sometimes they just get things wrong. If 10 people watch the same crime, you might get 10, you're probably going to get more than one answer of exactly what happened and in what order and what they saw, what they heard. So yeah, that'll happen. I don't know why we put so much weight in eyewitness testimony. It's usually pretty lousy. Now the inconsistencies regarding the foundation of Christianity, I mean, it's a mystery. It's an object of faith. You know, I think the central point is that you had a guy rise from the dead. That's supernatural. And they all basically said that happened. Now, whether or not the angel was in the tomb or out of the tomb, on the rock, more than one angel, what did he say? Who got there first? Was the stone rolled away when they got there? Did it roll away while they were there? I mean, I think all those types of things are subject to just, shaky memories 20, 30 years down the road. But that's, I'm sure there's someone else that sees it totally differently. You're just getting my opinion. Because you asked. Hey, Baron, thanks for the matinee so I can watch before church. Baptist. Called it. Nailed it. Claiming #1 fan spot in Northeast Alabama. Prayers for you. Go Max. Christ is king indeed. Fort Payne area? Fort Payne, Northeast Alabama? Fort Payne? Are you on Sand Mountain? I know my geography. Scottsboro, maybe? Jackson County? DeKalb County? Where are you? Baron, don't you think the feds might be dictating what the defense states? The defense could be corrupt or bought. Well, they could be, and that's certainly a possibility. I just don't know that it's evident from the filing. That was kind of my point. My B. Candace said the other day they sweep the house regularly. She also said they're moving pretty soon. Love you, B. Christ is king indeed. Well, I did know that. I hadn't said that either. Yeah. So invite them in. Sweep and move. Time to Kill is a good lawyer movie. I've seen that. It's good. It's excellent. I wouldn't say it's accurate in terms of how to try a case, but it's interesting. Baron, I saw PBD's interviewing the Pony Boy, Benny. Title's called Hero to Villain. Biggest fan in Salt Lake City. Christ is king indeed. Who's Pony Boy Benny? Oh, the guy on the midget horse? Does Gary have a midget horse too? How's that work? I know I used to jump up to get in a chair. I saw it with my own 2 eyes. Have you seen the give, send, go from Andrew Wilson to cover the cost of the debate? The comments from donors are shockingly nasty and violent towards Candace. It also reads from the third person. Very strange. I have seen all that, yeah. Got my blue holy mackerel sweatshirt. Day equals made. Holy mackerel. That's a nice sweatshirt. Nice sweatshirt. Thank you for sharing. Yo, my B, I get the sinking feeling that the only reason Smoke Boy wants this debate so badly is an attempt to lure the principal into a trap that TPUSA can hinge a defamation case on. I can't see the value otherwise. Thoughts? No, I don't think. I mean, obviously, it raises his profile a little bit. Oh, you just reminded me of something. I think it raises his profile a little bit. He obviously is going to make a lot of money on this. I think. I mean, I, in my opinion, he did not put up the $300,000. And if he didn't put up $300,000, then what does the gifts go to? Just going into his pocket, you know? I mean, he basically admitted any money over and above what he's costing, he's just going to keep. It says it right there in the Gifts and Go description. So, Baron, we need merch with your gasping reaction. I laugh every time. Thank you for being a truth fighter. For Charlie Kirk, wish I had your level of skill and discernment. Well, that's why you're watching. You're going to develop it. It's a high Q outfit. We train you up. I don't know that I want my face on a sweatshirt. That's a little weird. I'm not wild about that. Baron, you can't just gloss over EKA being at TC's. I didn't gloss over it. I told you. I mean, that's all I know is I think I heard she was there. I saw what I would consider corroborating evidence that she may have been there. So it is what it is. Don't know if you've mentioned this, but I was watching Candace today and thought it was a high praise when she said she would be nervous if she had to debate you. I get so excited when y'all shout each other out. Oh, so she must have said that last night. I was at baseball last night. So, and I did have it on, but I was like one ear in. And so I coached the second practice. And the first practice, my 5-year-old was playing. I was really intently watching him. And so I wasn't catching most of what was happening. I intended to go back and watch it today, and then we decided to do a matinee. So this morning and early afternoon was all show prep. And so I do intend to go back tonight and watch it. But if she said that, then I'll have to see how she said it. But I would be nervous debating her. Man, she is smart. She is just smart. And even her biggest enemies will say that. She is just sharp. IB Frank Turek is twisting scriptures in the Old Testament. Is before Christ came in the flesh. After Christ, everything changed. In Christ, you're loved and forgiven. Romans 8:1, there's no more condemnation in Christ. I'll let you take that up with Frank. I'm not going to settle theological debates here. But I think he's a turd. You know, that's the nicest thing I could say, Frank. Don't get mad about that because I could say worse things. Are you serious, PBD? I stopped watching his show for being biased towards our greatest ally. That podcast has gone downhill. That's a fact. Just look at the comments in his videos. I don't disagree with you. I feel like Bottas was held back at Mercedes. I agree. I think he was as well. And he felt like he was. There were lots of times he came on the radio. He's like, why are you not letting me by? I'm clearly faster. You know, or getting just dinged on pit strategy. So I agree. I agree with you. Bottas is a driver. Cadillac isn't very good this year. They're a brand new team, first year with a new car. I think they'll get back. I think he's good though. I mean, I think he's a very, very talented driver. Not like a once in a generation. Not Max, not Seb, not Lewis Hamilton, but he's not Alonso, but he's good. He's good. Solid. A great qualifier. A very good qualifier. Darlene Graham is going to the runoffs. Who is voting for her? Putting Lindsay's sister in after he dies is equivalent to putting Erica in after Charlie. Yeah. Seems to be MAGA's new move. Did you see they named a base after this guy? Like, wasn't MAGA opposed to Lindsey Graham until like 3 months ago? Didn't MAGA hate Lindsey Graham in 2016 and 2020? In 2024, frankly? He's a known war hawk. Wasn't MAGA founded on no more wars? He was constantly meddling around trying to get war started. Then we go name a base after him, and then we appoint his sister, and then vote for her, and then she's using her middle name as her last name because people are too fooled by the last name. They wouldn't know who Darlene Nodone is. So they call her Darlene Graham even though she's no-known? Does the court ever consider federal involvement in a case, e.g., manufactured evidence, or do they overlook that possibility entirely? Great show. Christ is king indeed. Courts can consider manufactured evidence. I mean, it has to be a foundation to introduce it, but yeah. Can you and your very lovely high IQ community please say a prayer for my dad? He might have to get his leg amputated. Praying for a miracle. Wow, Christ is king indeed. That is it. I will definitely pray. Your username has a little medical terminology in it. I will definitely pray for your dad, cardiac ICU nurse. But yeah, I will, certainly. Uncle B, if Turek justifies hurting Candace, he can justify killing a popular political figure who opposes Schmimschmel. Your biggest fan in Surfside, Florida. I agree. That's how I see it. Baron Candace already revealed Erica visited Tucker shortly before 9/10. Are you referring to a different E.K. Tucker visit? Charlie, Christ is King, you're the best? Yeah. I'm referring to a July visit. Yeah. Was it where E.K. was a couple weekends ago? Yeah, that's my understanding. Haven't heard your opinion on the E.K. lookalike in the red hat at UVU. She ran in front of the camera. Charlie Kirk's right after the Big Bang, praying for you. Christ is King indeed. I've given it. That woman, and I'm not knocking that woman. I'm just telling you how I was able to differentiate. It's not her. It's not Erica. That woman weighed like 50 or 80 pounds more than Erica. Now, I can see how you'd be confused because all you could see was her hand and her hair, and she had big hands, big knuckles, big, Erica has the knuckles of someone who weighs 80 pounds more than she does. And she got the long hair, and that woman had that kind of long fried hair and the big knuckles. And so I can see how you would be confused. But no, I don't think it was her. My flabbers are not gasted. I don't want to know what a flabber is. Please, no pictures. But mine aren't either. Hey, Baron, good show. Colin said that us 90 kids who use the R word are calling things gay. I think he's onto something. Yeah. That's gay. And when I use gay, I mean happy. When I say that guy's gay, I just mean he's bubbly. Like he's just laughing. He's carefree. He's having a good time. I use it in the traditional sense, like the Flintstones. You'll have a gay old time. But Baron, number one fan from Southern Oregon. Charlie Kirk woke me up, and I have to grieve my military service and assist in Iraq. Thank you for all you do. Christ is King. Oh, Christ is King indeed. Woke you up in a political sense, and you've had to grieve your military service from Iraq. Yeah, I understand. I mean, I get it. Thanks for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. Humble host, is there a remote possibility the state wants to lose this case in hopes that it will all go away and people like you and Candace will just stop talking about it? Christ is King indeed. Remote. I mean, it's a remote. You said possible. Yeah, it's remote. Thank you so much for all your hard work in putting these shows together. Just a thought. Do people flinch before they get shot? No, Charlie did. I miss him so much. I don't know if he flinched. He closed his eyes. This is where I went through the whole Charlie might still be alive. He looked like he was bracing, but he also might have been getting ready to sneeze. He might have been, he looked very tired in some of those pictures. Maybe he was just resting his eyes. I don't know. Maybe he was blinking hard. Maybe he had dust in his eyes. I don't know. Are you aware Smoke Boy and his wife claim to be devout Orthodox Christians? I've heard the rumor. Yo, Bubba Baron. Love hearing laughs between Daisy and your humble host. Makes us laugh. Any spinoff with both of you ideas? Hi, Daisy. We love you too. Christ is King indeed. Spinoffs? I didn't won any games. Spinoffs? I just hope we win another game. That's a Jim Mora reference for you that don't follow the NFL in the 80s and 90s. I don't know. I don't know what a spinoff would be. I'm open to spinoffs, I guess. My B, number one fan of Keno, Oregon. I'm better because of you. Christ is King indeed. Thank you. I appreciate that. Follow up. My B, Miami Valley is the region surrounding the great Miami River. And they're not, he's just a fan of it. Let's just probably just call it the Miami River. But he thinks it's she thinks it's a great river. So she's calling it the Great Miami River in southwestern Ohio, including Dayton, Hamilton, Springfield, and Middletown, and others. I'm near Right Pat, lest you forget. I will never forget again, Julie. I do apologize. Baron, you should watch the enraging hit piece Brandon Straka did against Kansas today, happening now on Harrison Smith's War Room show. I don't think much of Brandon Straka, if I'm being honest. I've met him. He's a very unimpressive figure. I think Botas was a great choice for a new team trying to get some points on board and get established. Going to race in Vegas this year. That's an expensive race to go to. Good luck. I heard it's fun, though. I heard it's a lot of fun. Colder than you'd think, because it's late in the year and it's at night. It may raise his profile, but between his stolen valor and clips circulating, I believe his plan will backfire. He's a hateful man. Oh, that's your opinion. It's your opinion. I may need to sign up for Humble Host Addicts Anonymous. I plan to watch after my daily cleansing ritual, but I brought the jury with me. Christ is king indeed. Faith Ann or Faith Avin or whatever your name is. We can wait. We'll wait for you. We prefer clean listeners, not cleaning, clean. But thank you. Thank you. Jesse on Fire saying that a board advisor from TPUSA is taking care of himself, allegedly. I will have to follow up with him. I did not know that. If one member suffers, we all suffer together. 1 Corinthians 12:26. I agree. It's part of what makes this this community so special. It is. All right, guys. Let's jump out of here. Don't forget to like the show. Don't forget to subscribe. When you subscribe, there's a little down arrow, and you can click that down arrow, and it'll give you an option to get notifications. You can click all, and you'll be notified every time we go live. And right next to that's a join button. I don't know if people know what that is. If you click join, it's a way to give a small monthly donation, but it also gives you access to all the membership shows. So a single monthly donation, you could go back and watch all the previous member episodes. And if you subscribe on a regular basis, you can watch the ongoing membership. If you join on a regular basis, you can watch the ongoing member episodes as well. And we have a lot of fun over there. I do some interviews from time to time. I haven't done one in a few weeks. Maybe I'll do one, or a few months, actually, a couple months. Maybe I'll do one coming up pretty soon. I had a couple people I want to interview who've agreed to do it. And we talk about other stuff, just wild, crazy stuff, and a little more insight into my life. So, yeah. So don't forget to do all those things. Like, subscribe, join if you want to. Also, don't forget. I know it's such a crazy world, and we talk about heavy stuff here. But Jesus loves you. Jesus loves you. Always will. Always will. And he's coming back one day to rule the universe from right here on earth. And it's going to be great. It's going to be great. Look forward to that day. We do look forward to that day. Have a wonderful afternoon. The principal is off, so you got the whole afternoon to catch up on past episodes or do some gardening or cut the lawn, maybe make a Mississippi pot roast in the crock pot, whatever gets you going. The afternoon's yours. Have a wonderful evening, everybody, and we'll talk to you mañana.